Okay, Megan, if you would please begin.
Ready? Okay, just to begin, I wanted to address a concern with the previous public hearing. And so changes and amendments and how they work here in the county is they'll be proposed by and be submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission for review, recommendation, and public hearing. A notice of such public hearing shall be published at least 15 days prior to the date established for said hearing. The notice shall include time and place for the hearing. After said hearing, the Planning and Zoning Commission shall have 45 days to submit its report to the supervisors. And then the public hearing will be held by the supervisors before adoption of any proposed amendment. The notice of such hearing shall be published at least 15 days prior to the date established for such hearing. Both pipeline and wind were published on the 25th of January in the Dickinson County News. And on Wednesday, actually the 24th, is when both ordinances went live on the website. So we are in compliance with our zoning ordinance for the changes and amendments. Moving on. Staff report, amending Article 21, conditional uses. On January 15th, 2024, the Planning and Zoning Commission 5-1 to recommend approval to the Board of Supervisors to amend 21 conditional uses. I will go through each change to the ordinance as well. It'll be on the screen. The first one is Section 3, procedure, letter A. The commission added and the local advertising shopper. So there were some concerns brought to the boards in regards to only being published in the newspaper. So we are looking to accommodate that concern. And since the shopper is a free publication to anyone in Dickinson County. Section 4, standards. The Board of Adjustment, go ahead and go to the next page there. Alrighty, Section 4, standards. Board of Adjustment, it said shall, and then now it proposed is may. And then letter A, they chose to take out the words moral and comfort. Section 4B, and enjoyment. It was felt that those items were not quantifiable. My enjoyment and your enjoyment are quite different, and the P&Z felt that it was better left out of the ordinance. Section 5, supplemental standards. Used to read, in addition to the general standards outlined in Section 4 above, specified uses shall adhere to the standards as follows. It was determined that both plan unit development, which has 5+ pages of supplemental standards, and the wind energy conversion ordinance, which used to be about 5, now I think we're about 8, shall comply with the requirements and standards within their ordinance. So the new wording will say, or propose to say, Section 5B, planned unit development, PUD, and Section 5D, wind energy conversion system, WEX, shall comply with the requirements and standards specified in the respective sections below and are exempt from the general conditional use standards listed under Section 4 above. All other conditional uses shall comply with the respective applicable supplemental standards in addition to the general standards of Section 4. And then you have to scroll quite a ways. Okay, there we go. Section 4, wind energy conversion system, WEX. Paragraph 1, you can see that it shall read, applicants shall follow the procedures and requirements outlined herein. The items that were struck was of Article 21, conditional uses, and also meet the requirements herein. Paragraph 2, the pre-application informational conference. The conference shall be held a minimum of now 45 days prior to the public hearing, where it previously read 30. The conference shall be advertised as the pre-application informational conference. Apparently there was some confusion in the last application that led us to actually have this titled the pre-application informational conference. We also added the location of the proposed project to list the township names and section numbers. And then also computer modeling for sound and shadow flicker will be available for all human occupied dwellings within the project area, and that is to be available at the pre-application conference. And the owner developer of the proposed WEX project is responsible to meet all of the requirements and shall provide documentation to the county that all of these requirements have been met. On to agency notification and review. There was a sentence added, notification will be sent by certified mail, including a return receipt. And then documentation of the notification of these agencies and any reports from the agencies are to be provided to the county 30 days prior to the Board of Adjustments' first public hearing on the matter. If the agency does not respond within 120 days, it may be deemed that there was no action taken. Previously, it had said that that the action, it would be deemed, if no action was taken, it would be deemed approved. And P&Z did not like that. They wanted just no action was taken. And then finally, any response is required to be documented, including any and all reports from the agencies below. Many of the agencies are the same. We did go ahead and add the Planning and Zoning Office, Emergency Management Office with Mike Eric currently, local, district, and state, Iowa Department of Natural Resources, when previously it read just Iowa Department of Natural Resources. And then also any incorporated city within 2 miles would also receive notification. Notification procedure is similar. It's just a little bit more robust. It is still 1 mile from the project boundary, but it will read as the Board of Adjustment shall schedule a public hearing in relation to the conditional use request. Notice shall be given to the public hearing as required by state statute by publication in the official county newspapers and the local advertising shopper. The county zoning office will give notice by ordinary mail to all property owners located within 1 mile of the property for which the conditional use is requested by mailing such notice to the last known addressees of those to thus be notified by depositing such notice with sufficient postage in the United States mail at least 15 days prior to the public hearing. An affidavit of mailing shall be obtained for each notice mailed. Notice shall include the name of the proposed project, a contact person for the proposed project, location of the proposed project, listing township names and section numbers, and the time and place of the public hearing. Very similar to notification to any other conditional use, which is outlined in section 3A earlier in the ordinance. Setbacks. The dwelling, the human occupied dwelling was 1,200 feet. It has been changed to 1,600 feet, with the following items being struck from that paragraph. A greater setback may be required to minimize shadow flicker, nuisance noise, and other possible documented effects to humans living in these dwellings. All of these to be addressed as a part of the application by the owner developer. The reason that was struck is because it's addressed now later on in the ordinance, where previously it did not address those items. The non-human dwelling did not change. They did go ahead and add a B for commercial uses, so setbacks for B. All publicly used commercial buildings having a permitted commercial use shall have the same setback as a human occupied dwelling, including but not limiting to public assembly and commercial recreation areas. This would be items such as the dwelling, or excuse me, the drive-in movie theater out near Superior, or a wedding venue also in that area. Property lines. So at one point you can see that there was some consideration given to a 1.1 times the height of the turbine for property lines. It was further discussed and recommended that we go back to the current ordinance rating for property lines, which at no time shall any part of the wind turbine or met tower overhang adjoining property owner without securing appropriate easements from said property owners. No changes to public right-of-way, overhead utility. There was some additional text that was added to public lands and water. So taking from the bottom, and to work with the owner developer to voluntarily identify alternative WEX siting options that minimize to the extent practical the area disturbed by pre-construction site monitoring and testing activities and installations, and to avoid locating WEX in areas identified as having a demonstrated and unmitigatable high risk to animals identified by the DNR. Density was not changed. They did go ahead and add in a maximum height. To have a maximum height of 600 feet measured from the base to the rotator tip in its highest position, Owner developer seeking to construct a WEX higher height greater than 600 feet will require a variance from the Board of Adjustment and an independent review by a third-party engineering firm. Duration did not change. Discontinuation and commissioning did. What was struck from that paragraph was all WEX and accessory facilities for the wind energy conversion system shall be removed within 180 days of the discontinuation of use. Each WEX project shall have a decommissioning plan outlining the anticipated means of removing the WEX upon becoming a discontinued use. This plan shall be submitted with the application. It will now read, all abandoned or discontinued use of WEX devices and accessory facilities for the abandoned or discontinued use. WEX devices shall be removed within 180 days of the discontinuation of use. Each WEX project shall have a decommissioning plan outlining the anticipated means of removing the WEX devices upon the WEX device becoming a discontinued use. This plan shall be submitted with the application. The abandonment or discontinued use of one WEX device does not require decommissioning of the entire WEX project. The WEX owner developer shall make the following financial assurances to the county. A, financial assurance may be made in form of cash deposit with the county, a performance bond, a surety bond, as long as the form of the financial assurance is mutually agreeable between the county and the WEX and the security is equal to or greater than the net amount set forth in the decommissioning plan or provided for by this article. Review of the adequacy of the financial assurance shall be every 36 months and shall subject to change if deemed by the county as being inadequate at that time. Such financial assurance shall be adjusted corresponding to the decommissioning plan updates and the minimum amounts provided for in this article. C, if the cost of the restoration of the project exceeds the salvage value and financial assurance amounts, the WEX shall be responsible for any differences. D, if any financial assurance required hereunder lapses or WEX otherwise fails to post the same, WEX shall have obligated to do so within 20 days of written notice from the county to do the same or otherwise shall be considered in default hereunder. E, such financial assurance shall be released after the project has been decommissioned or removed and a certificate of completion has been provided and accepted by the county. Moving on to 8, which would be mitigation of damages to public infrastructure. Letter A, we did go ahead and add in C ordinance 22-1 for the drainage easement ordinances crossing any drainage districts. B, roads. So any county infrastructure resulting from the construction, adding maintenance or decommissioning phases of the project. And then a road use agreement will be established with the county engineer. That was a common practice, but it wasn't spelled out in the ordinance. Electronic interference. Basically in occurrence with current electrical industrial standards. Moving on to 9, color, finish, and markings. All WEX will be marked as required by the FAA and in accordance with current and future FAA industry standards and with a goal to reduce the impact of nighttime light distraction. If the FAA marking lighting standards are updated, the owner-operator will have 180 days to implement the new standards. Any guide wires will have a colored spherical marker. A general visual simulation of the project area is required at the time of the application. This is addressing the ADLS. So the commission did not want to specifically put in any lighting terminology, but if the FAA updates their standards, these projects would be required to as well. Number 11. So the original 11 was struck and incorporated, as you can see, into 9. New 11 is sound. Sound produced by any wind energy device under normal operating conditions. For instance, the equipment is properly installed and properly maintained and not showing any evidence of repeating failure. As measured at the exterior of the human-occupied dwelling nearest to the WEX shall not produce a sound at a level that would constitute a nuisance. A WEX sound shall not exceed 45 dBA at night. However, sound levels may be exceeded during short-term events out of anyone's control, such as utility outages and or severe windstorms. Sound buffering technology is to be implemented as it becomes an industry standard. In the event of a sound complaint that is consistent and abnormal, the sound measured at the human-occupied dwelling that exceeds the limit of 45 dBA at night will be considered to be non-compliant. See resolution protocol in the application and or number 13 in the event of non-compliance from the owner-developer. The owner of a human-occupied residence may waive the sound limits established above. Said waiver must be in a written instrument signed by all owners and included with the application. Shadow flicker, a report prepared by a qualified third party using the most current modeling software available established that no human occupied residents will experience more than 30 hours per year or more than 30 minutes per day on average from the centroid of the human occupied residence based on the assessment modeling. The report must show the locations and estimated amount of shadow flicker to be experienced at all human occupied residents as a result of the individual WECs in the project. The owner of the human occupied residence may waive the shadow flicker limits established above. Said waiver must be in written instrument signed by all owners and included with the application. Item 13, resolution protocol. Application shall include a complaint resolution protocol. The owner developer shall investigate all complaints consistent with a complaint resolution protocol. At a minimum, the complaint resolution protocol will include the requirement for a WEX representative to follow up with any local resident within 5 business days that submits a complaint to fully understand the complaint. Observations of excess noise sometimes indicate the need to repair or maintain equipment. All sound complaints shall be logged along with the results of the investigation and measures taken to resolve the complaint. In the event the complaint is not resolved with the owner developer, then the affected property owner can follow the procedure below. Complaints shall be submitted to the Dickinson County attorney in writing from the affected property owner or written designee, including name, address, contact information, and specific complaint. The written complaint shall include a specific section of the ordinance which is believed to be violated. The county attorney shall cause the complaint to be added to the agenda of the next Dickinson County Board of Supervisors meeting in accordance with the procedure for setting the agenda. County attorney shall submit to the owner developer of record notice of all written complaints to the county within 5 business days of receipt of any complaints received by the county and the date of any Dickinson County Board of Supervisors meeting where complaints may be considered shall be communicated to the owner developer at least 10 days prior. The notice shall state that the Dickinson County Board of Supervisors and county attorney may determine that the WEX is in violation of its permit and is therefore a nuisance and may be ordered out of service until the owner developer can demonstrate compliance with the requirements of this ordinance. If WEX is found in violation of this ordinance, the owner developer shall take immediate action to bring the WEX into compliance. If the owner developer fails to bring the operation into compliance within 30 days, the county may seek any relief at law or equity to abate the nuisance and also may issue a municipal civil infraction citation. Each violation shall result in a $1,000 fine for Turbine. Each day of noncompliance shall be a separate offense. The article in terms of variances was not amended. 15 was documentation as required by the owner developer at the time of the application for all items now 1 through 15. And then lastly, the new addition to the conditional uses, which is hazardous liquid pipelines. Any person proposing to use land for purpose of locating or constructing a hazardous liquid pipeline shall submit an application for a conditional use permit according to the regulations set forth in Article 36 of the zoning ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any correspondences?
Of course we do, Bill. Fun part. Okay, as landowners and residents of the proposed Red Rock Wind Project development site, we are writing this letter in support of the project. Our letter of support comes even as our potential turbine site and potential future income has been removed from the project to make the project acceptable to residents of the county. We believe the project brings economic value to farmers and the county. Thank you, Scott and Aaron Titterington, 2410 260th Street, Milford, Iowa. Hello, I live in Milford and I am opposed to the wind turbines which they are wanting to build. Thank you, Stacy Newgard, 1902 13th Street, Milford, Iowa. Hello, I am objecting to the proposed wind change for wind farm. The current and proposed setback of the ordinances are too close to the cities, homes, and wetlands, and our beautiful blue water lakes. We cannot afford to let anyone be built that will damage our valuable ecosystem. We need to expand the setbacks even further than current and further than proposed. I will also bring up a point of fire protection as another reason. To my knowledge, the turbines do not have fire suppression in or on them. When these catch fire, the smoke produced from the fiberglass and large quantities of oils, very, very dangerous, not only to humans, animals, and our lakes. The smoke produced from the burning turbine will cause serious illness and or death if inhaled. I would ask that the setback be expanded more than proposed. Thank you for your time. Oh, Stacy Newgard again, 1902 13th Street. To the Dickinson County Supervisors, as chairman and founder of the community-owned Red Rock Wind Project here in Dickinson, Emmett, and Clay counties, I would like to make a few comments. On behalf of the 174 landowners who have voluntarily entered into wind leases hoping to have a turbine placed in their land, I would like to thank the Planning and Zoning Board, the Planning and Zoning Subcommittee, and the County Zoning Administration Office and the County Attorney's Office for their efforts as we update the current ordinance. The current ordinance has been in effect for the last 15 years, and the existing wind projects have been in operation under these rules with no issues in the county during that time. The amendments to the ordinance will continue to protect Dickinson County residents while recognizing the property rights of the landowners. Again, thanks to everyone who supported Red Rock Wind. Al Bloom, 25710 Pasture Road, Spirit Lake. To Dickinson County Board of Supervisors, I'm a landowner in the Red Rock footprint. Although my farm is not slated for a turbine, a number of my neighbors' farms are being considered. They are pleased to be a part of this project, both for the economic benefits to every resident in Dickinson, Emmett, and Clay counties, and for the environment. We all support the Board of Supervisors amending the current ordinance. Thank you for protecting our property rights. Zach Blum, Wallingford. According to some investigations, most if not all of the proposed locations for those wind turbines aren't going to be located in his district. So why is Tim Fairchild saying people in my district want the turbines? Sounds very suspicious to me. And then Tim Fairchild is told he isn't required to recuse himself from voting or participating in this matter, even though he is a part owner in the company. That is wrong. He's clearly doing this for financial benefit and not for his district. And there's a clear conflict of interest here. The use of eminent domain is not to force landowners to lose their property for the benefit of a private company. If landowners say no, the private company should be required to change the routes for the underground pipes and physical location of the turbines to avoid those properties completely. Angie Willis, taxpayer in Dickinson County. Megan, I strongly object to the updated wind turbine ordinances. In fact, I object to the entire project. We don't want them here. Sincerely, John Hegenveld, Spirit Lake. Dear Dickinson County Board of Supervisors, I support wind energy in our community and the benefit we'll have for our tax base in supporting our school districts. I feel the noise level 50 dBA is important for maintaining viable wind projects since this is the industry standard. Thank you for your efforts in maintaining reasonable ordinances, and please support our farmers and the Red Rock Wind Project. Sincerely, Tammy Overrocker, future landowner of Dickinson County. Thank you for your time in trying to maintain reasonable ordinances in connection with the Red Rock Wind Project. I support private landowner rights and feel the project would be a huge benefit to our local community in regards to jobs, taxes, and supporting our local Okoboji and Terrell school districts. The 1,600-foot ordinance from dwellings is reasonable and no further increase should be needed. The project would be a huge asset to our area, and I hope you will support it. Respectfully yours, Lyle Overrocker, landowner, Dickinson County. Dear Dickinson County Supervisors, Dickinson County is home to the cherished waters of the Iowa Great Lakes, a natural and economic resource we must protect to protect the birds of prey, bats, migrating birds, tourism, the economic engine of our county. A setback 5 to 12 miles around the Okoboji chain of lakes, Big Spirit Lake, Silver Lake, and Pleasant Lake should be added to the ordinance. Please increase setbacks around our natural lakes. Continuing, the suggested revisions to Ordinance 21 must be rejected and returned to the Planning and Zoning Board. The changes they have recommended are not beneficial to Dickinson County. 1, exempting WEX from Section 4 standards of health, safety, and general welfare, enjoyment of property, diminished property values, and much more is unacceptable. 2, establishing a setback distance from non-participating landowners' private residence is a takings. If setbacks are not established from the property line, you limit future use, enjoyment, and value of the non-participating landowner's property. Setbacks must be established from the property line. 3, a setback of 2 times the height of a neighboring residence is insufficient for safety. Last week, the brake failed on a turbine east of Sibley. The debris field from that turbine was over 4.25 times the height of the turbine. To account for a margin of safety, the setback should be at least 6 times the height. 4, A no overhang setback from the property line is dangerous and unacceptable, as we have seen from the structural failures in Nebraska, Colorado, Missouri, and Oklahoma. When a tower collapses, it falls outside of the overhang area with blades still spinning. 5, the pre-application information conference must be in a forum style, with the applicant providing information about the project to the audience and must include a Q&A session. 6, the WEX development application must include a sufficient number of copies of the information for the county. Subset A, 15 copies of the application and supplemental materials. B, 8 copies of the project area maps. C, digital PDF files must be included. D, the county does not need to spend time and resources making copies of their materials. 7, the application fee for WEX development of $350 is insufficient. The application fee must be sufficient to cover the county's costs. The changes made to this ordinance do not protect the county property rights of the non-participating landowner and do not benefit the county. Send this ordinance back to P&Z board for a serious revision. Sincerely, Barb Clayton. Also received, I agree with the comments of Barb Clayton attached, Phil Peterson. Dear Dickinson County Board of Advisors, I support the Red Rock Wind Generator project for the county. It would bring income and taxes that is much needed, along with creating jobs. I also support the noise level at 50 dBA. This is in line with the industry standards and with the setback of generators at 1,600 feet from dwellings. This is acceptable with current ordinances. Please take into consideration approval and support of this project for our community. Sincerely, Colleen Overrucker. Dear Dickinson County Board of Supervisors, the Grettinger-Terrell Board of Education would like to reiterate the support for wind energy opportunities within the Grettinger-Terrell school district boundaries. This includes revising the wind ordinance for the county to address the concerns of residents. With Tatum Pride, Marshall Lewis, Superintendent, Grettinger-Terrell Community School District. To the Board of Supervisors, I've been very disturbed to learn the wind ordinances are not sufficient to protect all Dickinson County residents. Please protect our residents and our valuable natural resources. Diane Rasmussen. I am a homeowner on Westlake Okoboji. I would like to express my concern with adding more and even bigger wind turbines. I believe they are they are environmentally bad for the area. They ruin the beauty, are hard to dispose of, and are basically subsidized by the government. We don't want them at the Iowa Great Lakes. I am out of town and will not be able to attend. Tom McCarthy. Dickinson County Board of Supervisors. I am a co-owner of a farm located in Milford Township that has been in our family for over 60 years. I am writing in support of the Invenergy Red Rock Wind Project. Wind is a type of clean energy that provides electricity without burning any fuel or polluting the air. That is very important to us. It will have a positive economic impact in the area also. Wind turbines are being used throughout the world. Why not here? There is only a 5 dBA noise difference between the industry standard noise level of 50 dBA and the current ordinance of 45 dBA. With only that 5 dBA noise difference standing in the way of completing this project, I would hope there would be a way for this to be resolved. Again, we are totally in support of wind turbines and the Red Rock project. Respectfully, Kay and Gunter Ritchie Family Trust, 1912 Franks Road. Dear Board of Supervisors, I'm writing in regards to the revised wind ordinance. I'm opposed to the ordinance as written. A 1,600-foot setback is insufficient for the new larger turbine sizes. Dickinson County should lead and not follow when it comes to wind ordinances. We should not look to other counties with outdated ordinances and smaller turbines when drafting a brand new ordinance for our county that will need to see us through the next decade or more. Only 1% of the turbines in Iowa are as large as the ones proposed to be installed here. Let's enact a moratorium on wind projects to allow time to fully consider the impact of the ordinance. This will impact future generations and should not be brushed into. There is a saying that good fences make good neighbors. The same goes for the issue of wind turbines. Good setbacks make good neighbors, whereas poor setbacks, such as the ones proposed in this ordinance, will make bad neighbors. I would like to see a minimum setback from our property lines of 4 times the height of the turbine. I would like this same setback from conservation areas. Let's bring the cities into the conversation on what sort of distance they would like to see from city limits. These turbines contracts will last long into the future, so we need to draft an ordinance with the same level of foresight. Thank you, Rick Miles. Dickinson County Board of Supervisors. As a co-owner of property in Dickinson County, Milford Township, I am once again pledging my full support to the Red Rock Wind Project. We may or may not have a wind turbine placed on our property. Regardless, I firmly believe that the benefits from this project will make a positive economic impact on everyone in the area and will provide clean energy to help sustain a fragile environment. The Dickinson County Boards of Adjustment and Zoning and Planning have taken steps to ensure that the project is held to strict industry standards and local ordinances to protect those living near areas of proposed wind turbine placements. I applaud the members of these boards for listening to and taking actions on behalf of the people they represent. As the process of vetting and hopefully approving this project, it appears there is at least one issue that I'm aware of that needs to be resolved. That being the decibel level allowed, 45 dBA per local ordinance. My understanding is the wind energy standard is 50 dBA. That's a difference of only 5 dBA. That small amount of added decibels may be crucial to completing this project in compliance to not only the local but state and federal regulations. To put into perspective, an average conversation between two adults within a home is about 60 dBA. With an agreed upon Dickinson County ordinance of 1,600 foot setback from any dwelling, I believe 50 dBA is a reasonable compromise. Please consider making the changes so that this project will come to fruition. Thank you for reading or listening to my thoughts and concerns. I sincerely hope that an agreement can be reached to benefit everyone. Respectfully submitted, Orville Johnson. Board of Supervisors, Dickinson County. I have attended numerous Board of Adjustment and Board of Supervisor meetings in the past 6 months. Each time I walk away from those meetings, I get the feeling that their minds are made up concerning wind turbine projects. As each variance comes before the Board of Adjustment, one of the first questions is always, have you spoken with your neighbor? Please give the same consideration to the neighbors of this project. For each participating landowner, there are multiple non-participating landowners whose property rights are being infringed upon. These landowners are only asking for a setback from their property line so that they may fully enjoy their entire property without being affected by these almost 600-foot monstrosities. Would you enjoy living next to them? I think not. When the citizens of Dickinson County first asked for a moratorium, this was never even discussed at a Board of Supervisors meeting, even when those in attendance at those meetings requested a discussion. Please consider all of Dickinson County citizens when making this decision, not just the 100 or so that are profiting from the transaction. Sincerely, Kimberly Brower, 401 Emerald Drive, Arnold's Park. We are ready to show our support for the Red Rock project. Our family owns property within the footprint of the project, and we have the property on Big Spirit Lake. Wind energy simply makes sense. It's clean and renewable, putting us more in control of our own energy needs. This project is part of a solution to a long-term need that will never go away. It also has a favorable economic impact on the community, bringing in tax revenue and jobs. We have 2 nephews in the wind energy business. So these are real jobs for real people in our community. It's easy for some to sit back and say we don't need more turbines when they don't rely upon these turbines to provide for their families. Please support our community and the Red Rock Wind Project. Jeremy and Shanna Horner, 25690 Pasture Road, Spirit Lake. To whom it may concern, my wife and I bought an acreage 1 year ago southeast of Arnold's Park. The proposal would have 6 windmills within 1.2 miles of our new home. This would destroy our view to the southwest, south, and east. This will greatly affect the property value with no retribution, months of flicker, noise problems year-round, and a complete destruction of our beautiful view of Iowa. We strongly oppose this destruction of our county. Also, the amount of protesters at the last hearing shows you how much the citizens do not want turbines. The Iowa Code 318.11 was put into place against billboards and signs on roadway to keep Iowa beautiful. Don't trash up our backyard with these huge noisy shadow makers just to line your pockets. Thank you, Andrew and Amy Lowe, Spirit Lake. To Dickinson County Board of Supervisors, is my hope the Red Rock Wind Energy Project can continue. I feel that the previous decision to stop it was based on misinformation and people promoting every kind of fear, real or otherwise. When people don't know the facts, so they will believe anything they are told, regardless of if they are told it is accurate. I've been around long enough to know that people don't think twice about making up facts as they go along in order to promote their own personal agendas. I see social media posts about how the wind turbines will ruin the lake with their transmission fluid, but the closest turbine is 4.5 miles from the lake. That being said, the turbines can contain mineral oil, not petroleum products that hurt the lake or surrounding environment. If that oil would never happen to enter the lake for some reason, it would be safe. It's just one of the many points of misinformation being pushed by the opposition. I want to ask you if you think boat gas, oil, and emissions are good for our natural resources here in Okoboji. How do these 2 things help the life, our lakes, and the marine life that reside within them? You know they're both going into the lake every time a boat enters the water. And how about the many huge condominium complexes going up around the lakes? They seem to be a threat with overpopulating the lake, and no one seems to care about that because it's money generated for the lakes area. The condos might generate revenues, but the wind project will help generate income for my farm and the farms of many of my neighbors. The tax revenues will also improve our school districts and public infrastructure. How could we not want to support helping our schools? We have millions invested in our land and our opportunity to make the to make money with this project is being squelched by people who are basing their opinions on misinformation. I am asking you to seek out the facts on wind turbines and the Red Rock Wind Project this time around, instead of listening primarily to those who simply don't want to look at the turbines. The rest of us have skin in this game too, and our thoughts and opinions need to be taken seriously. I don't think that happened the last time around. Sincerely, Dave Schwaller. Dear members of the board, we are writing to express our opposition to the proposed zoning amendments. Topics of greatest concern include: 1, please do not allow the exemption to Section 4 standards for wind projects. To protect the general public and neighbors, please maintain the Section 4 standards as they are in the current ordinance. 2, please reinstate the 110% property line setback that were recommended by the committee, but stripped out of the revisions by the Board of Adjustment. 3, please amend the 1,600-foot setback for occupied dwellings to 4 times the tower height. 4, please require the use of radar-activated lighting as allowed by the FAA. 5, please make sure any board members who have agreements with Red Rock and Energy recuse themselves from the discussion and vote regarding the Article 21 amendments as we perceive a conflict of interest. 6, please give greater weight to our position as Dickinson County residents and voters in comparison to absentee landowners who write in support of widespread wind field development. We also support a moratorium on wind turbine applications. At a minimum, however, please revise the proposed ordinance to better protect the residents, wildlife, and natural beauty of our county. Respectfully submitted, James and Robbie Townsford, 12195 153rd Spirit Lake. Dickinson County Board of Supervisors. I was born and raised in Terrell, Iowa community. My grandparents farmed northwest of Terrell. I am a 3rd generation owner of the farm, Moore Farm Partnership, that is part of the Red Rock Wind Farm footprint. I support a wind energy project based on the environmental impact it can have and also the economic impact that it could bring for rural Dickinson County. My understanding is that some monies will be allocated to our rural school systems and provide the financial support to remain open and functioning. I am in full support of the Red Rock Wind Farm project. Sincerely, Mary Richards, 1341 Carpenter Canyon Road, Oro Grande, California. I'm writing to you and every supervisor with the Dickinson County Board of Supervisors that I'm opposed to any more turbines coming into our area, and at the very least that the setback should be changed on the ordinances to reflect the size of the turbines coming in. I believe the setback should be a minimum of 3 miles from anyone else's property. I also believe that Tim Fairchild should recuse himself from the board, as he himself stands to benefit from many contracts to the turbines on his property. Sincerely, Jeff and Sonia Johnson, 1667 225th Place, Spirit Lake. I am a landowner in Dickinson County. I am in favor of the potential development of wind turbines on my land and urge the board to give its approval for the continuation of Red Rock Wind Energy Project. K. Christians Chambers, Carroll. The current wind ordinances are not sufficient to protect the health and safety of Dickinson County residents. I agree with a 2364 setback distance from property lines. So the towers, blades, and motors have significantly increased over the years, and therefore there is a need for increased setbacks. I also believe that the setback distance should only apply to property lines, neighbors' dwelling, road right-of-ways, railroad property, power lines, other rights of way requirements, creeks, rivers, lakes, other waterways, and all state and federal lands. This must be done right in order to protect people, animals, property, and the ecosystem. Thanks, Karen Bergen. Dear members of the Dickinson County Board of Supervisors, we'd like to take this opportunity to express our support for Red Rock Wind Project that is being proposed in Dickinson County. We believe our community has a unique opportunity to participate in the creation of abundant clean energy for present and future generations as our dependence on fossil fuels begins to be reduced. We consider wind energy generation to be a valuable asset for landowners as well as a significant revenue generation opportunity for local schools and important tax-supported infrastructure. We are pleased that our land is under consideration as a site for a wind turbine, and we look forward to seeing the completion of the project with the promise of many years of clean, efficient energy production. Thank you for your service to the community and your thoughtful consideration in this matter. Susan and Stephen Canuck. Dear Megan, the proposed P&Z amendments to the current wind ordinance in Dickinson County do not reflect today's turbines. Palo Alto County amended their ordinance in 2022, which makes it one of the most up-to-date wind ordinances in the state. Please follow their requirements with the following: ADLS on any and all future turbines, total height of 1,600-foot maximum. And then there's nothing from miles to cemetery, mile to cemeteries, nothing from mile to permanent residential dwellings, and then a 1.2 times height from property lines without waiver. In addition, please consider requiring property value protection agreements like many other states have done to protect property values from non-participating landowners. Respectfully, Roger Doyle, 3180 270th Street, Terrell. Dickinson County Board of Supervisors. I am an owner of farmland in Dickinson County where 1 to 2 wind turbines were going to be installed. I was very disappointed to hear the project was recently not approved by you. I support wind energy. A reasonable wind ordinance project is vitally important to reduce the fossil fuel issue that we have in this country. Regarding property line setbacks, the county should move forward with a setback that allows private property owners like me to exercise control over my land. Finally, the DBA noise limitation is extremely quiet and could significantly reduce the ability to site a turbine on a given parcel. This level is sustainably below the industry standards, 50 dBA, and would negatively impact the possibility of developing wind projects in Dickinson County. Sincerely, Joan Williams. To the Dickinson County Board of Supervisors from Chris Van Cleek. Here is the priority of the needed change to this ordinance. 1, setbacks, dwelling. The turbine should be placed 4 times the total turbine height. This is supported by numerous unbiased research articles, as well as the country of Denmark, which has a 4 times total turbine height for the entire country. B, property lines. It is not sufficient to place a 600-foot turbine so that there is no overhang of the turbine or blades. The blades are 250 feet. This should be the same distance as for public right-of-way as landowners, farmers, or other persons may be working next to their property line. 2, sound. Supported by research is the request for a 35 dBA during the nighttime hours and a 40 dBA during the daytime. There is a wealth of research relating to the effects of noise and impact of sleep and quality of life. WHO, NARUC, ANSI, Nessenbaum study, US EPA, to list a few. The proposal of the 45 dBA at night is doubling of noise from 35 to 45 dBA. This is inadequate for our rural residents. Shadow flicker. Non-participating landowners should have no shadow flicker onto their property. They are not being compensated for this intrusion. 30 hours per year or 30 minutes per day on average is not appropriate. They live there first and should not be subjected to this. Please clarify what on average means, as it's an average over 365 days. The proposed revised Article 21 conditional use ordinance will not protect the residents living near industrial wind turbines. I request that you reject and return the proposed ordinance for further evaluation to the Planning and Zoning Board. Thank you, Chris Van Cleek. Dear Dickinson County Board of Supervisors, you keep listening to all the people against wind turbines. Maybe you should drive around the lakes and take a good look at all the huge condos going up, blocking everyone's view of the lakes. That is worse than looking at some wind turbines. Also look at how much more electricity they will use. So tell me, where does the electricity come from? Dave and Brenda Lurie. We continue to have significant concerns regarding the wind ordinance update and lack of sufficient updates in order to protect all Dickinson County residents. Mike and D. Huss, Villa number 3, condos, 1800 Country Club Drive, Okoboji. Dickinson County Board of Supervisors. As a landowner in Dickinson County, we're in favor of adding wind turbines to the landscape. The Invenergy project is a good addition into our economy and is a sound investment in the future of using renewables resources. Thank you for your time. Sally Schoenbissner, Ankeny, Iowa. You don't know all the ins and outs of the ordinance, but I would say, I don't know all the ins and outs of the ordinance, but I would say I'm not for any more wind turbines in Dickinson County. Do you realize they have a lifespan? And once they're no longer used, it's the responsibility of the landowner to remove them. That's not good long-term decision-making for Dickinson County. Also, Omaha Public Power District has continued to produce coal-fired energy as they have realized all the downsides to wind energy. Thanks, Mike Vanna. I am writing this letter in lieu of attending the February 13th meeting and to express my support for wind energy and the Red Rock Wind Project. Why I support wind power. 1, never run out of wind power. 2, does not emit greenhouse gases. 3, wind power is continually getting cheaper. 4, in the U.S., Iowa, at 11.4% of the total U.S. wind energy generation, is second only to Texas at 23.9% of total U.S. wind energy generation. Wind energy powers 64% of Iowa's electricity generation, the highest share of any state, and we have the opportunity to do even more. 5, significantly boost in jobs during construction install. 6, wind energy generation is proving to be very beneficial to Iowa's economy. In 2021, Iowa wind turbine generated approximately $57 million in tax revenues for the state and local taxing bodies, and the wind companies paid out $67 million in lease payments to landowners. Counties use the money to support essential services such as education, infrastructure, emergency services, and law enforcement. Those levels continue to increase. In regard to the noise level and setbacks, In accordance to the U.S. Department of Energy, wind turbines emit less than 50 dBA at 300 meters. That's the equivalent of 984 feet. So the industry standard noise level of 50 dBA and a setback of 1,600 feet, which would be 488 meters, is very reasonable. A further setback increase and a lower dBA ordinance is not necessary. As a point of comparison, according to ISU studies, the average noise level of a farm tractor is 80 to 100 dBA. Thank you for your time, and I encourage you to pass an ordinance that will not only keep Iowa a national leader in wind energy generation, but will put Iowa on the global stage as well. Sincerely, Eric J. Olson, Dickinson County landowner. The wind turbine ordinance that is being sent to the Board of Supervisors is unacceptable as written. It will cause an unreasonable interference with our ability to make a living as a farmer. We will not receive any compensation for our loss. John and Jan Meyer. Dickinson County Board of Supervisors, I realize you all under a lot of pressure from vocal groups that are clearly against wind energy. There have been so many false narratives and personal attacks that I can't believe this is the same community I grew up in. Some opponents seem to think that because they may live in a rural area, they should have the right to determine what their neighbors do or don't do with their property. I'm not sure if they realize that unless you own other real estate around your rural home, there isn't much you can do, and vice versa for your neighbors telling you what you can and can't do. Rural living is a blessing, but also a curse if you don't control the land around you, and it is critical that you or the real estate agent perform due diligence when purchasing a rural property, such as in Dickinson County, where wind easements have existed for 10 to 15 years and are public records. I'm a rural homeowner, and despite recent letters to the editor and other social media accusations, I'm not going to get a turbine on my farm or any of my family farms. However, I support the revised ordinance and the opportunities for my neighbors to see the financial benefit of a wind turbine. I encourage the board to approve the carefully revised wind ordinance that incorporates reasonable setbacks, etc., while not being too restrictive to prevent any future wind development in Dickinson County. Thank you, Patrick Fairchild Terrell. Please see attached document expressing concerns on amendments to Article 21. Please adopt a moratorium until proper information can be gathered to make some changes to the wind turbine zoning regulations to protect the safety, health, and welfare of Dickinson County residents and visitors. Current and proposed amendments are inadequate. Wendy Clark. Ooh, I am a landowner in Dickinson County and strongly support for the Red Rock Wind Project and its benefits to the area. James. James Riegert, I think. All right. To Dickinson County BOS, I apologize I was not able to attend today's meeting. I am out of town on a business trip that could not be rescheduled. If there were ever an example of the tail wagging the dog, this ordinance would be a prime example. Red Rock and Energy continues to get any and everything they ask from the county, planning, zoning, and BOS. Yet, when it comes to the complaints and concerns of your constituents, the people who voted you in, you continue to turn a blind eye. As a prior member of the county's wing subcommittee, this ordinance is not reflective of the community's wish to protect our neighbors. For instance, let's look at Section 4 standards. Section A and B, morals, comfort, and enjoyment were completely removed. Why is that? So all of you get to enjoy your lake homes, but we no longer get to enjoy our homes in the country. My next example is a 1,600-foot setback. This is a huge win for Invenergy, as they had already conceded the setback by removing 3 turbines. During our subcommittee meeting, while discussing setbacks, Al Zeitz mentioned that he had seen objects thrown up to 2,500 feet from turbines. Al was a subcommittee member who is the manager of renewable energy services at Iowa Lakes Electric Cooperative and has over 30 years experience. Why are we not taking his example into consideration? My next example is a setback from property lines. A minimum of a 1.1, the turbine height needs to be a standard. Many European countries have a 1.7 setback standard, and they have had turbines for much longer than the U.S. Just in the last month, there have been a wind turbine collapse in Missouri, Colorado, and Nebraska. 3 collapsed in 1 month alone. Setting the standard to a 1.1 would give non-participating landowners the ability to enjoy their properties for when a tower does collapse. The last example is a 30 minutes a day / 30 hours per year on average. If we don't have it currently, why should we ever have to put up with it? Is this the reason, quote unquote, enjoyment was removed from the ordinance? Album saying, if you don't like it, go inside and close the curtains. Answer is absolutely unacceptable. In closing, when the subcommittee first met, Dickinson County's very own Megan Cardell said we need to have compromise, and this ordinance is anything but. Y'all need to stop letting the tail wag the dog and bring back pride to our community. Thank you, Aaron Jansen. Let me read that. My name is Ken Horner. I live in Esterville in Big Spirit, Iowa. I'm writing to support the Red Rock Wind Project. This project will provide with both Dickinson County and Emmett County with several millions dollars of annual tax revenue. I cannot imagine that the Red Rock Wind Project will cause any physical harm or cause any reduction of the value of Dickinson County or Emmett County properties, and the added tax revenue will be a benefit to everyone. Another benefit are the jobs the project will provide. I have 3 grandchildren that have excellent jobs in the wind industry. I sincerely hope that this project will go forward. Ken Horner, Global Marketing LLC. Dickinson County Board of Supervisors. Is our understanding there's a proposed revision to the wind ordinance under your consideration. We do not believe those proposed revisions do enough to protect the citizens of Dickinson County and its visitors. We would urge you to adopt the following additional revisions to modernize the ordinance to accommodate the height of the proposed wind towers in Dickinson County. Please adopt these additional revisions to the ordinance. 1, revise the setback distance to 4 times the total turbine height from the property line to the non-participating property owners. 2, revise the noise level to 35 dBA at nighttime, 40 dBA all day on property. 3, revise the ordinance to allow no shadow flicker on non-participating landowners' properties. You are representatives of everyone in the county and need to look out for the health, safety, and well-being of everybody. Therefore, please do the right thing and be proactive in approving and adopting the above revisions to the wind turbine ordinance to protect all of the citizens of Dickinson County and its thousands of visitors every year. It'll be far too late after a new wind turbines are erected. Thank you. Barbara Lingle, Earl and J. Lingle Trust, 2341 350th Street, Milford. Attention to the Dickinson County Board of Supervisors concerning the Red Rock Wind Project. I am writing in support of keeping the current setback of ordinance of 1,600 feet from dwellings and from increasing the current noise level ordinance of 45 dBA to a viable industry standard noise level of 50 dBA. Being a landowner in Dickinson County, but living in a wind farm in Story County, I can easily confirm that these are livable, reasonable standards. Thank you for your diligent service to the welfare of Dickinson County citizens. Gratefully, Cheryl Bolden. I'd like to the Dickinson County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to voice my support for the Red Rock Wind Project and other wind energy projects in Dickinson County. Some modifications to the current ordinance that have been suggested go beyond industry standards with little evidence to support the benefit. For example, changing the noise limitation from 50 dBA to 45 dBA would inhibit this project and future wind projects from being sited in Dickinson County. I believe we can be prudent without being prohibitive. Patrick Jones Spencer. Hello, I'd like to share our support for the Red Rock Wind Project. It is well documented that the wind energy projects are valuable to local economies. While we agree that there is a great responsibility needed in terms of ordinances and regulations, some of the amendments proposed around setbacks and noise levels will severely impact the project's ability to make a positive impact on our economy. We would hate to see unnecessary restrictions prevent an economically beneficial project from helping our community. Nate and Angie Jones, Spencer. To the Dickinson County Board of Supervisors, in order for family farms like ours to continue to thrive, they will need additional sources of income. Wind projects like Red Rock can provide this alternative revenue stream and support not just the farm, but the surrounding communities. In order to make sure this doesn't disappropriately benefit larger farms, please consider maintaining the standard 1,600-foot setback. Increasing or adding setbacks hurts small landowners the most, as it limits where turbines can be sited. Sincerely, Jones Dairy. To whom it may concern, we support the Red Rock Wind Project and the benefits it will bring to our local economy. Please support the reasonable setbacks and noise limitations as stated in the current ordinance. Further restrictions will mean the project and its economic benefits will be forced to go elsewhere. Jen for Jersey, Spencer. I'm writing this to voice my opinion in opposition to what they are offering for the setback, etc., in support of DC3. Alta Gilbert, PS. I did sign the petition. Attention, Dickinson County Board of Supervisors. We've watched with some concern the move to revise the current wind ordinance in Dickinson County. We worry that the move to rewrite the ordinance, wind energy opportunities might disappear. That could result in significant loss of rental income and jobs for Dickinson County, as well as severe loss of tax revenue for the county and schools. And that doesn't begin to address the loss of generated energy. Please consider any proposed changes very carefully. While aesthetic considerations are important, these income and tax revenue considerations are at least equal to them, if not greater. A more restrictive ordinance seems like a bad move. Thank you. Sincerely, Kevin and Benita Clark, 31 Grand Avenue, Des Moines. Okay, bear with me. My name is Dennis Ross, and I have lived in Dickinson County most of my life and have been associated with the farming community as a farmer and landowner. I suggest the Red Rock Wind Farm that is being proposed, or I support the Red Rock Wind Farm that is being proposed. It will be an asset that I felt we need to harness. The wind flows here a lot and will produce electricity without the use of fossil fuels. This should be a no-brainer to use and to existing asset. In the meeting with the Planning and Zoning Commission, the setback was set at 1,600 feet from building. I think this is reasonable, but the noise level that was discussed was 45 dBA, which was too low. The wind energy standard is 50 dBA. I did some research and downloaded an SLM sound level meter, which measures decibels. This was downloaded from my iPhone from the National Institute for Exception Health, Safety and Health. The EPA and the WHO recommend noise levels below 70 dBA. The EPA also specified limits for speech interference and annoyance at 55 dBA outside and 55 dBA inside. When I get up in the morning before anything is turned on, the SLM registered 36 to 40 dBAs. When my wife got up and we talked, the SLM registered 60 dBAs. I think the supervisor should confer and Invenergy and come to a reasonable level of noise. And in our travels this winter, we saw oil wells in Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and windmills in the same state. The area is using their natural resources to their advantage, shouldn't we? And Denny Ross. As a lifelong resident of this county, I recognize the three different areas of major concern as an agricultural sector, the manufacturing sector, and the tourism sector. Most of the time, I don't think that the agricultural and manufacturing groups care that the tourism demands of the attention of this county. But this time I am asking that your change of the requirements not restrict the windmill company so much as to make their investment into this county impossible. That investment will benefit the school districts quite a bit, especially the Terrell district. Investments in our children should be the highest priority. If more local money comes into our schools, that makes the state less than the amount we get from them. Isn't that a good thing? Because there would be more money for funding bridges, repairs, or other needed repairs to our infrastructure. I know some people don't like the sight of the windmills, but aren't our children more important? Sincerely, Connie Cable, 1979, 190th Street, Milford. Dickinson County Board of Supervisors. I'm unable to attend the Board of Supervisors meeting concerning the proposed wind energy project. The reason I can't attend is due to my due to my health issues. I'm a strong supporter of wind energy. Several years ago, I signed up my farms to the Red Rock project. The most important reason that I support the wind energy are the environmental benefits involving air quality and renewable energy. There is also significant financial benefits to area landowners and Dickinson County government services from turbine lease payments and turbine property taxes paid by the wind energy company. I listened online to the recent Board of Supervisors meeting. Supervisor Tim Fairchild expressed his most important reason why he supports wind energy. I've talked with Tim many times for many years, so I can verify that what Tim stated at the end of the meeting is exactly how he feels. One of the opponents argued with Tim whether climate change is a real problem in Dickinson County. She said that Dickinson County has a beautiful clean air, implying that renewable energy is not necessary. Her statement wants us to accept the premise that air in Dickinson County does not move around and that the upper atmosphere is not being affected by harmful greenhouse gases such as CO2 and NOx gases, which cannot be seen with the naked eye, but are measured with scientific instruments. Regarding CO2, good air quality is a proper balance of certain gases. Too much of any gas can turn out to be a negative. That in a nutshell is the main climate change issue. And the main focus of this letter is on current and established noise limits for wind turbines. I attached noise comparison charts and an explanation of the decibel scale. Will refer to the following information shown. The first paragraph states the decibel scale is not linear, but logarithmic. This means that noise levels can be added directly like other numbers. Studies, explanations of the decibel scale, and then study following the chart. 50 decibels is equivalent to light traffic noise on an average refrigerator noise, which is about 1/2 as loud as normal human conversation. Then the study And then the study, the chart shows the noise levels that exceed 85 to 100 decibels, which includes average semi-trucks, lawnmowers, motorcycles, sporting events, rock concerts, and etc. Those examples do not include semi-trucks, passenger vehicles, and motorcycles equipped with loud exhaust street pipes without mufflers, which are much noisier on average vehicles and are technically breaking existing noise laws. Low-flying spray planes create very loud propeller noise, yet are deemed necessary for some agricultural areas. Also, certain grain bins, Axel-style aeration fans are extremely loud and are sometimes located very close to adjacent acreage dwellings that are negatively affected by that noise. Yet the county has not set noise limits for those items that I know about. The final issue is about landowner rights. Participation in the wind energy project is completely voluntary, which means eminent domain laws are not used or needed. Each landowner could choose whether to participate or not. The question is whether non-participating landowners can restrict other landowners from participating. The state of Iowa and local counties have done the very best that they can come up with compromise for limits and guidelines to protect each landowner, whether they participate or not. Many people and the developers have invested very significantly in the project based on assurances that if all the ordinances are met, the project will proceed. I urge the Board of Supervisors to consider the issue about changing our ordinances or rules after the fact when the project has met existing ordinances. That is definitely not fair. Refer to the attached noise level charts. Sincerely, Richard K. Bachman, landowner, Dickinson County. There's the charts. My name is Tom Hall, and I'm a resident of Spirit Lake, Iowa. I wish to express my support for the Red Rock Wind project that's proposed in Dickinson County, Iowa. I'm a consumer. I am particularly excited to be a participant to this alternative energy initiative. I'm confident in the science and that along with proper oversight is good for our area. The Dickinson County Board of Supervisors, once again, I would like to express my committed support for the establishment of the Red Rock Wind Farm in Dickinson County. I firmly believe that this is good for the environment of the planet and the economy of our county and state. I urge you to vote for the betterment in our world. Thank you, Gail Bachman, 1202 H Avenue, Milford. To the Board of Supervisors, I'm unable to attend this morning's meeting due to illness. Had I been there, I wanted to ask one specific question and also to apologize to each and every one of you. Why? Because I am saddened at the way you have been both privately and very publicly attacked and abused by citizens of our community at the local coffee shops, simple conversations on the street, in local papers, and on social media. In America, we do have the right to an opinion, thank God, but I do not feel that it has to be taken to the extreme of the angry and sometimes threatening phone calls, emails, and public accusations that some of you have endured. Opinions and emotions run extremely high on this whole matter, some of which is often due to misinformation. Just because we find an article on Google, that does not mean it is factual, yet it tends to become truth when it fits our own mindset or agenda, especially on the subject of wind energy. Again, opinions and emotions. It seems to me that Invenergy has provided a multitude of documented facts, figures, and general information. As I understand it, they've all met the criteria required of them and have worked hard to make many changes to accommodate the county ordinances and to appease the opposition. In doing so, it seems they have crossed all the T's, dotted the I's to cooperate with the county stipulations. All of this has been done without the public or private accusations and or attacks to those opposing the wind farm. I've not heard any of them phoning or emailing those who are opposed to the project with the kind of that threats, the very public smear tactics and or verbal abuse that you on the county boards have endured. Again, emotions run high. I do not know any of these locals that are in favor, or I do not know any of the locals that are in favor of this project publicly spewing negativity towards the opposing side and or specific individuals who are trying their best to do their due diligence for our area. Instead, they have taken the high road and supported this project without trying to destroy anyone involved, especially you on the county boards. I'm not going to list all the reasons I feel the way I do in supporting the wind farm. No need to. You've heard it all from both sides and now must come to a tough decision. So just what is my one question to you supervisors? Are you going to be voting on documented facts and figures, criteria that has been met, or are you voting on emotions? Thank you, Deb Olson, Terrell, Iowa. Down to 2. As a resident of Dickinson County, I strongly support the revised wind turbine ordinances that's developed by a study committee recently. These new requirements are an excellent balance between the rights of landowners who wish to accommodate wind turbines on their land and the safety of non-participating landowners and the general public. The opposed Red Rock Wind project will be a great benefit to our county and other property tax jurisdictions through increased property tax revenue. It will also benefit participating landowners by paying significant lease payments on an annual basis, which will further enhance the local economy. In addition, this project will create excellent employment opportunities during construction and will need to employ trained technicians to serve the turbines. Iowa Lakes Community College has a premier technician training program in the nation, and this project will provide employment opportunities for their graduates. Wind energy projects are not new to Dickinson County, as there are almost 150 turbines in operation west of the lakes. Those turbines have been in operation for many years, and none of the dire predictions of the opponents of the Red Rock project have come to pass. Also, some of the newer turbines in that area are about 500 feet tall, so the opponent's comparison of the Red Rock turbines to the smaller Spirit Lake School turbine is very misleading indeed. I believe the 1,600-foot proposed ordinance setbacks from an occupied dwelling are reasonable to ensure both safety and will allow the project to be constructed. The setbacks are almost 3 times the height of the turbines, and any further increase in setbacks would make the project unfeasible. These setbacks are greater than any previous requirements in place for current wind farms in the county. The sound level requirement of 45 dBA is more restricted than current requirements and greater than those imposed on current wind installations in the county. Therefore, it seems the industry standard of 50 dBA would be more appropriate. As a landowner with a 500-foot, 2.5 megawatt turbine in operation, I can personally attest to the terrific benefits of wind turbines. So the turbine on our property has been in operation for 5 years and not created a single problem for us and our neighbors. It has certainly enhanced the earnings from our land and increase our property value. Sincerely, Dr. Harold D. Pryor. On behalf of the Red Rock Wind Project, we appreciate this opportunity to provide feedback on the draft wind ordinance. Our project includes 174 families in Dickinson County who have signed voluntary leases to participate in the project, some of whom have been a part of the project since 2008. On behalf of these landowners representing more than 28,000 acres in Dickinson County, we want to acknowledge the time and efforts that has gone into thoroughly evaluating the county's wind ordinance and updating some of its provisions. While we largely believe that the ordinance is fair and balanced, we have some suggestions for further revisions or clarifications. Section 5D5 setbacks. We recommend that this section be revised to include the definition of participating versus non-participating properties for the purposes of including the ability to waive setback requirements in the event of a participating landowner with planned facilities would like to waive the setbacks for human occupied dwellings and non-human occupied dwellings. The option to waive the setback requirement with the agreement of the owner of any affected property should be added. Section 5D11 and 5D12. We recommend throughout sections 5D11 and 5D12 that the ordinance utilize the definition of participating versus non-participating properties. Instead of the vaguer requirement of waivers to ensure clarity, the sound and flicker limit should apply only to non-participating properties by default, with the waiver as an option for non-participating properties. 5D9, color and finishing markings. The language as proposed creates operational uncertainty and risk. We recommend that the language require the WEX to follow all relevant FAA regulations and requirements, and the owner-operator to exercise commercially reasonable efforts to implement new industry standards if they are relevant to the project. Compliance with FAA regulations will include appropriate steps needed to comply with the updates or changes to those regulations. With this in mind, they propose the following revision. 9, color, finishing, and markings. All WEX will be marked as required by the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, in accordance with current and future FAA standards, striking and with the goal to reduce the impact of nighttime light distraction on strike and regulations, including lighting shall, to the extent permitted by FAA and other applicable regulations, be designed to minimize distraction. Also striking, if the FAA marking lighting standards are updated, the owner-operator will have 180 days to implement the new standards. Any guide wires will be a colored spherical marker. A general visual simulation of the project areas required at the time of application. Section 5D3, agency notification and review. We note that 120 days for agency response is an unnecessarily long time frame and will not meaningfully increase the likelihood of our response. Accordingly, this requirement may be read to unintentionally and unnecessarily lengthen the application process without assisting in the consideration of the project. We recommend 60 days as a more appropriate time frame. Section 5D11, sound. Based on our experience, 45 dBA is an overly restrictive requirement and will reduce the size of the project in Dickinson County, resulting in less investment and fewer local benefits. We recommend a 50 dBA limit, which is consistent with industry standards and is used in many Iowa County wind ordinances for good reason. It is a minimal level of noise that strikes a fair balance between minimizing potential annoyance and enabling new opportunities for landowners and the increased tax revenues that flow from those opportunities. Section 5D13, Resolution Protocol. We don't oppose the inclusion of a complaint procedure for sound, but the language as drafted appears to remove the owner developer from the process, which could ultimately have the unintended consequences of lengthening the time before resolution can be reached and may delay the investigation, necessary repairs or solutions from being implemented. We have suggested language below to address this concern while not removing what we believe is the county's intent behind the proposed revised requirement to quickly and transparently resolve any valid complaints. We also believe that it is important to clarify that if the curtailment or shutdown is necessary to resolve a sound complaint, that the measure should only be necessary for the offending turbines, as written in the language refers to WEX, not WEX devices. So resolution protocol applications shall include a complaint resolution protocol in which the owner developer sets forth a process for resolving any complaints by any affected property owner related to the construction, maintenance, operation of a WEX device or devices. The complaint resolution protocol. Okay, so they struck the owner developer shall investigate all complaints consistent with the complaint resolution protocol. Continuing, at a minimum, the complaint resolution protocol shall require the WEX representative to strike, follow up with any local residents, unstrike, reach out to the affected property owner who made the complaint within 5 business days, strike that submits a complaint, unstrike to fully understand the complaint. Striking, observations of excess noise can sometimes indicate the need to repair or maintain equipment. Proposing all complaints by an affected property owner related to the construction, maintenance, or operation of the WEX device or devices shall be made directly to the owner developer in accordance with the complaint resolution protocol. The owner developer shall then investigate all complaints consistent with the protocol. All striking sound complaints shall be logged along with the result of the investigation and measures taken to resolve the complaint. Such log shall be provided by the owner developer to the zoning administrator on a regular basis, but not less than annually. In the event the complaint is not resolved to the affected property owner's satisfaction, after the owner developer has completed all measures required with the complaint resolution protocol, the affected property owner may follow the procedure below. 1, complaints shall be submitted to the Dickinson County Attorney in writing from the affected property owner or designee, including name, address, contact information, and specific complaint. The written complaint shall include the specific section of the ordinance which is believed to be violated. The county attorney shall cause the complaint to be added to the agenda of the next Board of Supervisors meeting in accordance with the procedure setting agenda. County attorney shall submit to the owner developer of record notice written complaints to the county within 5 business days of receipt of the complaint. Complaints received by the county attorney and the date of any Dickinson County Board of Supervisors meeting where complaints may be considered shall be communicated to the owner developer at least 10 business days prior to the meeting. The notice shall state that the Dickinson County Board of Supervisors and the county attorney strike according to the provisions of the complaint resolution protocol. May determine that a WEX device is in violation of its permit, strike, and is therefore a nuisance. Returning or unstrike may be ordered out of service until the owner developer can demonstrate compliance with the requirements of this ordinance. 3, if a wind energy conversion system device is found in violation of this ordinance, the owner developer shall take immediate action to bring the WEX device into compliance. If the owner developer fails to bring the operation into compliance within 30 days, the county may seek relief at law or equity, striking to abate the nuisance, and may also issue a municipal civil infraction citation. Number 4, any person who knowingly makes a false noise complaint to the county or who interferes with an attempt to evaluate or resolve the complaint may be subject to penalties as provided by state or local law. A county infraction is punishable by a civil penalty of $750 maximum for each violation, or for repeat offenders, $1,000 maximum for each violation. Iowa Code 331.3071. For such violations, any officer authorized by the county to enforce county code or regulations may issue civil citations. Iowa Code 331.3074. Thanks again for the opportunity to share feedback on the ordinance, and we look forward to continuing to work with you. Kate Milliner, Director, Renewable Energy and Energy.
That's it. Thank you, Megan.
Good job.
Feel free to get a drink now if you wish, preferably not that barefoot, but. Okay. You have a list of people?
So we have a list of people that are wanting to speak as well up at the podium. What I will do is I will name off 3 people. After the second person is done reading, I will list the next three people. I just ask that you start a line as I call your name so that we can kind of keep it moving. You have a 3-minute time cap, which I'll have up on the screen. Our first three we have is Randy Hykins, Steve Dullard, and Steve Anderson.
And please speak into the microphone.
I will do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't know how this could be approved. Exempting the wind industry from the Section 4 safety standards would violate not just common sense, but it would violate the Code of Iowa. This exemption was not authorized at the last P&Z meeting. I attended the meeting. It was not authorized. I don't know how it got in there. The other end of the ordinance, decommissioning, still has erroneous wording. Change was authorized at the P&Z meeting to make the wording proper. It was not followed through on. It was not done. But anyway, you want to see my picture anyway, don't you? Anyone who lived long in the 20th century knows of the name Eddie Rickenbacker. He raced cars here in Iowa, was best known for as the most decorated American flying ace of World War I. He writes in his book, Fighting the Flying Circus, about engine failure. I quote, generally speaking, an airplane can glide along for a mile without losing more than 1,000 feet altitude. This is a ratio of 5 to 1. And I drew on this little chart. This represents 1 mile between my fingers. And you see the slope line there, 5 to 1 ratio, trying to compare how a part of a blade might fly as compared to an airplane that lost its engine. And I thought, well, maybe that's not just a perfect comparison. I do have an engineering degree, and I sat down and calculated that if a blade tip was flying at 180 miles per hour or through a piece of ice or something like that into the air, how far would it go? And you don't have to go to college to figure this. It's high school physics. And so you will find, if you calculate it, you can check my calculations if you want to later. But something can fly beyond the 1,600 feet that's in the ordinance, 1,000 feet beyond a house, the 1,600 feet away. The only way to make these safe out there is to put them in the middle of a section. Get the setback distance, 2,600 feet, 2,500 feet, something like that. Otherwise, they can throw things and hit homes. So if you want to check my calculations, please do so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Steve Dullard. I live in right down the street, Spirit Lake. And actually, Tim, you inspired me to speak when you spoke last week and made mention of the fact that you believed in climate change and you wondered what your grandkids would think if you weren't here to defend this. So I thought it's time for me to speak for my grandkids. Because I don't believe in climate change. Never have. I'm still waiting for the ice age we were supposed to have back in the 70s. The acid rain we were supposed to have, which hasn't come yet. Then we changed it to global warming. Well, global warming didn't work. So we come up with climate change, which can encompass all kinds of garbage. All right. Just don't believe it. Still won't. So that's where I'll start with my grandkids. Okay, these big fans you got out here, think about it. Where's your studies to show what it's done to the ground and so forth here already? These companies like ServPro and other companies that come in and clean up and dry up properties that have been flooded, what do they use? They use fans down on the floor, right? To blow air across the ground to dry it out, right? So these things aren't helping climate change, they're creating climate change. Where's your studies that show the wind patterns, the changes that have made in the wind patterns up here lately? So how do you know you're not causing your own drought? Okay, birds, these things, wingtips, vortices, they create a wingtip off of them. A wingtip vortice will bring down an 80-ton airliner. What makes you think that when the wind changes just a little bit and changes the angles of that vortex, it's not going to bring down birds, migratory birds in this area that are flying high and away from them. I'm not even talking about running into them and flinging them. All they got to do is hit one of these vortices and they're going to the ground. And it's, these are health issues created by these things. You stay around them. 50 decibels, fine. I worked in factories and in the military. I've actually lost my hearing at points. And you hang around these things as much as you want, and you're going to start losing your hearing. All right. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
All right, after Steve Anderson, we have Holly Smith, Mike Carberry, and Don Butel. If you'd please get in line behind Steve.
I'm just here. I could not hear half the letters being read out there, but did the city of Milford letter get read? I know it was emailed, so I will just read what. I don't know, the city administrator emailed it, so I have no idea. So I will.
January 25th, both of these were noticed and published in the paper. Both of these published. So we
But
just
when
need
did the
to
super-
vote on
no.
protocol that-
I asked when the supervisors voted to set the public hearings.
That is not procedure in Dickinson County. So since you were unable to hear that previously, the Planning and Zoning Commission for review, recommendation, and public hearing. And it shall be published 15 days prior to the public hearing. Then it will submit a report to the Board of Supervisors. At such time, the public hearing shall be held and before adoption of any proposed amendment to the ordinance. A notice of such public hearing shall be published at least 15 days prior to the date established. So it was actually noticed in the paper on January 25th.
Yep.
And then on the 24th, both ordinances were posted on the website.
Okay.
Additionally, if you think we need an email, if you want, we're going to be here for a while, as you can tell. If you can
Yeah.
email it right now, we'll read it.
No, I've got the letter right here. So,
Okay, very
nope,
good.
Nope, I brought it. I was just bringing it up because at city councils and all the city councils around here, when we pass an ordinance, we set a public hearing. And then the council sets the public hearing. The supervisors and the minutes have never set a public hearing.
You would agree with me that the different municipal bodies and governmental entities might have
Yep.
different rules. Do you agree
Yep,
with me on that?
I do agree with you on
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Yep. All right, this is a letter from the city of Milford. I'm sorry that it didn't get sent. I'll find out why it didn't get there. Dickinson County Board of Supervisors, the city council, the Milford City Council has reviewed the proposed wind energy conversion system, WECS, ordinance changes and are concerned with future growth of the city of Milford. The county has set no limits for current boundaries of any cities under your proposed ordinance. A WCS could be placed within 500 feet or 1,600 feet of the city boundaries, depending on whether the dwelling is humanly occupied or not. The last proposed WCS application had initial leases for 40 years and up to 2 additional 10-year leases for a total of 60. The city of Milford has expanded almost 2 miles over the last 50 years. If WCSs are installed within 500 feet or 1,600 feet of the city limits, it would stop any future growth of the city of Milford for the next 60 years or more. The proposed ordinance restricts future land use development, limits future residential growth and opportunities for jobs within our area and the overall tax base of Dickinson County. The Milford City Council has voted unanimously to send this letter to the Dickinson County Board of Supervisors, formally requesting that the county WCS ordinance require no less than a 3-mile setback from the current city limits. We feel this provides protection for future growth of all the cities within Dickinson County, and it's signed by Chris Hinshaw, Councilmember Hinshaw, Councilmember Fredericks, Councilmember Hoffman, Councilmember Warshak, Councilmember Money, and myself, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Holly Smith, Mike Carberry, and Don Butel. Holly Smith, are you here? Oh. Mike Carberry. Yep, you're next.
Hello, my name is Don Butel. I and my wife live at 2460 290th Avenue, which is southwest of Terrell. I supposedly have been told that two windmills will be built on the land directly across from my house. I've in the past attended all the planning and zoning and board of adjustment meetings. At one of the meetings, planning and zoning meetings, a man wanted to have the planning and zoning give him a variance for an addition to his house. One of the people on the board asked him if he had contacted his neighbors and asked him if they had any objections. I and my neighbors would like the same consideration with the proposed windmills being planned next to our properties. I live in township.
Jordan, would you start the clock, please? I'm sorry, Don, continue.
Well, that's helpful. I had a 4-minute. Now I had it. And you cut me to 3. I live in Lloyd Township 20. I have contacted residents around me in sections 8, 16, 18, 19, 21, 28, 29, 30, and 33, and Milford 13, and they all are opposed to windmills in their backyard. I also know residents in Lloyd Townships 2, 6, 23, 34, and 35 who are also opposed to having windmills in their backyard. Now, the original ordinance called for a setback of 1,200 feet or 4 times the height of a windmill. And now you have windmills pushing 600 feet. So it only makes sense to run your ordinance or your setback 4 times, which would be 2,400 feet. Now, there's been talk, or there will be talk, I'm sure, of property rights, and I'm a strong believer in them. But a person's property rights stop at their property line. I should be able to sit in my easy chair and not have to endure any flicker from any windmill. That's a violation of my rights. I should not also have to hear the whomp, whomp, whomp of a blade of a windmill. This is also a violation of my rights. Now, I think of all the summer residents we have and the millions of tax dollars collected from them, and what kind of representation do they get? I hope this summer when they return, they don't ask, what did you do to our skyline? I'm also interested in how many participating landowners live next to their windmill, or do they live in Milford, Mankato, Cedar Rapids, Des Moines, or even Missouri, as some do. If the windmills are so great in Dickinson County, why do they stay back 2 miles from the lakes and towns? Why do the lakes and town residents get more consideration than I and my neighbors? Don't forget the 1,500 plus signatures and the petition and the 3 nights of testimonies given to the Board of Adjustment. And also, the planning and zoning is only presenting recommendations. Therefore, you, the Board of Supervisors, have the power to protect the health and well-being of the residents living in Dickinson County by implementing stronger windmill ordinances of 4 times the height of the proposed windmill, lowering the proposed decibel noise limit, and eliminating any flicker on any non-participating landlord's property for the present and into the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, after Mike, we have Gary DeLoss, Kurt Horman, and Joseph Crowley. If you please come stand against the wall over here to get in line.
Thank you and good morning. My name is Mike Carberry and I'm the Outreach Director for Bright Future Iowa. I've worked in the renewable energy business for 24 years. And we at Bright Future Iowa, we really promote good policies for good projects. I thought your last ordinance wasn't too bad. This one the amended one is actually really, really good. It is a compromise. There's the best public policy that there is in the middle someplace. And so whether it's 1,200 feet or 6,000 feet, whatever it is, the best deal is in the middle usually. This new ordinance seems to be mostly in the middle. Everybody has to give a little bit and then the public wins. So I want to thank the Board of Supervisors, the Planning and Zoning Commission, Megan and her staff in the zoning department. This is a lot of hard work. I also really respect the public input that's coming through, the transparency that's here. And so, if you ever need any help with an ordinance, you can reach out to us if you want to fine tune anything, but I think this is overall a pretty good ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary DeLoss, right. I want to thank him for framing the issue the way he did, because I disagree completely. I don't think you can compromise away some of these issues. First, my name is Gary DeLoss. I'm from Spencer. And the reason I'm here is I have a lot of friends and relatives in the Lakes area who invited me to get involved about last August or thereabouts. And so I have been. And they also invited me to get involved because they knew that I had roots in Dickinson County. I grew up on a farm 6 miles east of the Catholic Church in Milford. And because I had an extensive experience with energy policy and zoning in my background. So I'm going to try to keep this brief. We already have wind turbines in the western third of Dickinson County, plenty of it. You can't put them in the middle third because of the lakes and the towns along Highway 71. So what's left? The eastern third, and that's what this fight is about. We want to protect the eastern third of Dickinson County from really gigantic industrial structures, dozens of them. I think there are several issues I want to address real briefly. First, two issues that are kind of speculative, so you're really gambling on these. One is the impact on property values for neighbors' properties, for example. You're never going to know for sure, but it is a gamble, so it's a valid concern. Second one is there's a possible impact on vacationers and the vacation business in the lakes area. This is the current brochure. It has 0 pictures of wind turbines, 0. Again, it's a gamble. We don't know, but it's a valid issue. But I want to focus on what we do know, and that is we've been living among hundreds of these machines now for 20 years or more, and they keep getting bigger. They are industrial structures, and some people have decided that they're ugly and that they do away with the open space, the views of the farmland and the sky. You could call it landscape and skyscape. And the skyscape is day and night because of these flashing red lights you can see for 10 or 15 miles away when you're driving down the road. So those are absolutely known quantities. And I think when people express objections, it's based on real life experience, and it should be considered very, very seriously, because zoning is supposed to protect quality of life, and quality of life means what people feel about things like the landscape and the skyscape. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kurt Horman. I'm from Wisconsin. We have a farm on the eastern part of Dickinson County. We've been with Red Rock ever since they started in 2008, I guess. As a current landowner, we stand behind the projects that have been helped to lessen our dependency on fossil fuels. We strongly support the construction use of wind turbines. Harnessing the wind to generate electricity just makes a good economic and environmental sense. I know it's a hard decision for you guys here at the board to make, and this has been going on for a long time. And when you go, we just came down, we stayed in Spencer, we came up this way, and I got to the lakes and I said to my wife, look at on the left over there. Look at that eyesore that they just put up. I don't know who, they must have had to get a permit or something, that great big 3-story apartment building. Condos. You know what? We've been here for 30 years coming back and forth, and it's been a beautiful lake, and now you got condos coming up. Well, I don't know, maybe you didn't have to get a permit. Maybe they just could build it. I don't know, maybe it went through the township. Another thing is up here. We had owned 160 acres, just 1 mile south here, right in town of Spencer, Spirit Lake. Augie Shepman bought that land and developed it. Now it's called Glen Haven or South Glen. Now them two turbines have been there for how long? And now I guess they're shut down because they went through their years of service. Why didn't they tear them down? Somebody left them, put them there then. I guess unless people were complaining about them, I don't know. But I understand that they're shut down now because their use is over. But I never heard anybody complain about them turbines when they're there. And guess what? They're within how many feet of the school, the church? And besides, when we sold that land, they developed it and they put that beautiful development in there with the big lots and the people. I mean, it's a nice development. I'm glad that we did it to the right place, to the right time, to the right person that put that land in there with 2 to 4 acres of lots and beautiful houses there to beautify your city. But anyhow, I just came out here from La Crosse, Wisconsin, to let you know that I think that this Red Rock guys that are running this operation here, as far as we've been in control of us, talking to us, telling us what's going on, and it looks like they're trying to do their best to work with the state and the county and to do whatever that takes to develop this and bring the money into this county. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, after Joe, we have Dennis Ross, Ryan Ross, and Patrick Kelly.
My name is Joe Crowley. I'm the project developer for the Red Rock Wind Project. We appreciate this opportunity to provide our feedback on the draft wind ordinance. Our project includes 174 families in Dickinson County who have signed voluntary leases to participate in the project, some of whom have been part of it since 2008. As a point of clarification, no eminent domain has or ever will be used on this project. On behalf of these landowners, representing more than 28,000 acres in Dickinson County, I want to acknowledge the time and effort that has gone into thoughtfully evaluating the county's wind ordinance and updating some of its provisions. We encourage the supervisors to continue their commitment to quality of the end product over the speed of the process. You heard the entirety of our proposed revisions earlier this morning as read by Megan. Thank you, and I'm sorry. As always, I'm here as a resource to the board. I'll keep things short, but I did want to draw attention or special attention to the revisions planned for section 5D, part 11, sound. Based on our experience, 45 dBA is a restrictive requirement that will reduce the size of the project in Dickinson County, resulting in less investment and fewer local benefits. We recommend a 50 dBA limit, which is consistent with industry standards and is used in many Iowa County wind ordinances for good reason. It is a minimal level of noise that strikes a fair balance. Red Rock was previously designed to meet 50 dBA at all human occupied dwelling units in the county. While 5 dBA is a minimal level of noise difference, it can make a significant impact on the project. Of the 83 potential turbines in Dickinson County that meet that 50 dBA limit at human occupied dwellings, reducing to a 45 dBA limit could leave less than 67 turbines compliant, requiring that turbines be removed or curtailed. I've compiled a list of landowners whose ability to host a turbine may be frustrated by a 45 dBA limit, as some combination of turbines would need to be eliminated from that project. Your jobs aren't easy, but the attention and dedication that each of you have put into developing a balanced and robust ordinance does not go unnoticed or unappreciated. On behalf of all Dickinson County residents, both those against the development of wind energy and those that support it, thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Now Megan read a letter for me, and can I add to that letter?
Well, of course.
You know, when I looked at this, I downloaded, I did some research and I downloaded what this is an SLM. It's a sound level meter. And it kind of tells you what the sound is. When I first did this, I got up in the morning, I went out, turned it on. It's 40. Nothing running, no TV, no radio, no coffee maker, no nothing. Now, when my wife comes out, then it goes to 60. And no, we don't holler at each other. But the normal sound level is 60. Now, the EPA has specified for speech interference and annoyance 55 outside. 45 inside. And so, you know, I think where the industry standard is 50 decibels, maybe Board of Supervisors and Invenergy should get together and discuss this, because I think this is going to be a great project. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Ryan Ross. I hope nobody tells Mom that he just said that, so. But I want to thank the supervisors as well. Deb Olson wrote an awesome letter that demonstrated, and she knows what you've been going through. I know what you've been going through. And we were trying to get the appropriate facts to you, but thank you for allowing input today into this ordinance. And I encourage you to adopt an ordinance that is fair. We all want that. We want it balanced. We want it equitable to the residents, to the landowners, and to our income stability. We really, we know that farming has its upturns and its downturns. We've all been through it. Diversifying our income stream is great for the entire community of citizens, not just for the farmer, but for everybody down the line. So having energy generation in Dickinson County is crucial to all the communities. Being fair and balanced requires an ordinance that does not disproportionately restrict a smaller landowner by unnecessarily increasing setbacks from a property boundary. I own an 80-acre parcel, and introducing too much of a setback from the boundaries can squeeze all the rights and opportunity from me and my participation in the energy generation project. The Planning and Zoning Commissioner, Jim Blom, referred to this type of a restriction as a taking, and I agree with that. It would be taking my rights. I support the setback from our residences, the 1,600. I push for that. I think that is appropriate, but I do not believe that an extreme property line setback is fair or balanced. Pertaining to the sound level limitations, the Iowa Environmental Council recommends the standard limitation no lower than 50 decibels. A limit of 45 would be incredibly restrictive. Joe just brought that up. A library, my daughters are down at the library in Ames probably right now, but their sound is typically 45 decibels inside a library. So that is very restrictive. I don't want to be shushed. I ask that you, if you feel compelled to adopt a specific number into the ordinance, that you keep it at 50 or higher. Please be careful that it doesn't become arbitrary, which I feel that we're throwing 5 decibels around pretty flippantly, and that that's a huge difference between those two. Dick Bachman had a letter that said that it is logarithmic, and that is correct. So I thank you for allowing input again, and thank you.
Thank you.
All right, after Patrick, we have Nancy Hykins, Jamie Hunter, and Norland Stowell.
Patrick Kelly, Okoboji. I want to thank everybody for coming, putting their 2 cents in. Thank you, folks, the electeds, for doing what you're doing. It's sometimes very thankless. I live in Okoboji over near the inn, where the inn was, and I see about 30 windmills on the west side of Okoboji. They've been there for probably 25 or 30 years. Now, I can't obviously hear anything from there, but I really, I heard what the one man said, that he's going to sit in his living room and hear the windmill, you know, that's not going to be too far from his house. Now, that seems to me, just on the surface, that seems like that's an intrusion on his property rights over there, in terms of, not just in terms of hearing something audible that wasn't there, but obviously, you know, there's some visual pollution. If there's a windmill, you know, 1,000 feet from where you're living, and it wasn't there when you bought or built the property, that seems like, on the surface, that is a take from that individual. And I'm not against takes, but they need to be reasonable. And if somebody built a house or bought a house and there was no windmills near there, and there was no noise from any windmills, and there was no site pollution, then you go ahead and you okey doke this, then you are participating in a take. And I don't think that's appropriate. I really don't think it's appropriate. And I think that people need to seriously pump their brakes on this issue, because all this is going to do is create an additional chaotic political environment here in this county. That's not necessary. And I know you got the okay from some agencies saying, well, it was okay, it's all right, no issues. Well, there's always an issue if there's a perception in the public of a take, and there's always an issue if there's a perception of impropriety, even though there may not legally be an impropriety, but if there's a perception of impropriety on behalf of electeds, that taints the process. So I would urge you seriously, pump your brakes, take a harder look at it, and come up with the compromise. You can come up with a compromise. I know there's some people that are DC cubed that don't want any kind of compromise, but hey, needs to be something reasonably done here. And again, just thank you, and I wish you all have a good day, and appreciate your public service. And particularly, I appreciate the staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I can still say that because there's a few minutes before noon. Nancy Hykins, 2624 270th Street, Spencer. The proposed wind turbine is not protective enough. These dangerous industrial wind turbines would be too close to our home. They keep them away from towns for many reasons. Why are we treated differently? This movement was founded by a group of area nurses concerned about the health and safety of those living in these areas. We want to sleep peacefully at night without strange noises in our houses or red lights flashing in the night sky. We do not want to worry about broken blades or ice gliding through the sky and crashing through our rooftops. We do not want our fields to catch on fire and risk burning down our homes and the rest of our farm place. Just last week in Osceola County, according to Fire Chief Ken Holz, a turbine malfunctioned and emergency crews closed down Road A22 in fear of a blade flying or potential fire. This turbine was only 200 feet tall. Imagine a 600-foot turbine spiraling and flying out of control. 30 hours of shadow flicker per year is too much. And my neighbor that signed up his land lives in Missouri. He was not going to even hear it or have the shadow flicker or have the health issues associated with these wind turbines. We do not want the birds killed, like the eagles and pheasants, or the bats that consume mosquitoes. Even the earthworms are negatively affected by the vibrations. The ecosystem is disrupted on rich Iowa soil. We have antennas for radio, television, and internet, and these should not be disturbed. We, as non-participants, should not be bullied into accepting a substandard ordinance. Also, the wind industry would be exempted from the 14 general standards listed in Section 4, which are about our health, safety, comfort, and enjoyment of our property. This was not discussed at the last P&Z meeting, and it's Section 4, A through N, if you want to go ahead and read up that again. For the sake of the county, do not approve this ordinance. Please protect the citizens of Dickinson County and God's creation for generations to come. We love our eagles. They're a sign of our freedom. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you.
Jamie Hunter? Okay.
So Jamie Hunter, I'm an attorney here today on behalf of the Dickinson County Concerned Citizens. I've been speaking at many of these public hearings. I've never had the time limits that the general public is because I'm speaking on behalf of the hundreds of citizens that are against this proposal. Instead of submitting a written letter today, I've got about 3 pages of notes. So Chairman, I'm asking you to get through these 3 pages since I'm speaking on behalf of all of the DC3 members.
Go
Do I
ahead.
have permission to go beyond the 3 minutes is what I'm asking?
We're pretty liberal in that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So I do have a few areas I would like to cover today. The first couple hopefully make your job a little easier. First of all, a lot of the letters we've heard are, asking you to support or deny, Red Rock's application or the specific turbine plan. And we're not here today on that. So we can just kind of set that aside and focus on the ordinance that we have in front of us. And this isn't a yes to Red Rock or no to Red Rock by any stretch of the imagination. Another thing to make your job a little easier, there's portions of this proposed ordinance that you cannot vote on today. As we all know, notice is required to be given to the public of proposed changes. So there was notice given, and in that public notice, it directed folks to the county website where the proposed ordinance revisions were posted. In those proposed revisions to Article 21, Section 4 was not touched at all. There were no proposals to Section 4 of Article 21 on that website. There were also, there were certain revisions, of course, to Section 5, but not to all of them that the P&Z touched based on. So Section 4 sets forth the standards for determining whether any type of conditional use permit should be granted, not just the turbines. We're talking about the planned unit developments, RV parks. I've got a lot of clients really interested in RV parks. There's been a lot of talk today about condos and complaints about condos. These conditional use standards apply to all of those things. And I don't know if that change was intentional or not, but had we had noticed that Section 4, these guidelines were now going to be permissive instead of mandatory, I certainly would have spoken on behalf of that before the P&Z, and I know a lot of other people would be too. But because we didn't have notice that anything in Section 4 was kind of up for change, you can't make any of those changes today. So there were notice to some changes in Article 21, Section 5D, but not all of them. And in looking at those changes, I'm really confused as to how the county in some situations got from point A to point B. So I'm looking at the minutes from the last P&Z meeting with the changes that the commissioners approved. And then I'm looking at the draft that's on your website today and that I believe is before you. And not all of those changes on the proposed draft were approved in those P&Z minutes. For example, under paragraph 5, there's setbacks. In the final version that's before us today, the sentence, "A greater setback may be required to minimize shadow flicker, nuisance noise, and other possible documented effects," that's been crossed off. That wasn't approved by the P&Z, or at least it's not one of the approvals stated in the minutes. So I don't think that the P&Z actually approved that. And it's really concerning that that kind of eats away at the Board of Adjustments discretion. Another change is found in Section 5, Paragraph 1, which is the supplemental standards. On this final draft, it exempts both PUDs and turbines from the general standards of Section 4. This change was not proposed prior to the P&Z meeting. I certainly would have addressed that in the letter that I sent to the P&Z. And this change is also not what the P&Z minutes say. I think the minutes are a bit inconsistent as it gets to the exemption later on. But that line under Section 5, Paragraph 1 is not in there. So how did it get there? I have an idea that, well, I know that Red Rock requested that to be in there because we have the letter from Red Rock specifically asking that the WCS turbines be exempt from the general standards. I don't think that makes any sense. We have supplemental standards. The very heading is called supplemental, meaning in addition to the general standards. We can't remove the general standards and only have these supplemental standards. Now, why do these turbine companies want to be exempt from all these general standards? They don't want you to consider whether the turbines would be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of their residents. They don't want you to consider that turbines could be harmful to the use and enjoyment of other property in the neighborhood. And that was one of the things that was pointed out at the beginning, that term enjoyment was removed because it's too substantive. Well, I mean, it's in our Constitution. It wasn't too substantive for our state's founders to have in the Constitution that we absolutely have the right to the enjoyment and use of our property. Another thing that had changed that I don't think was specified in the minutes was the resolution protocol. And I also just don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. I think it's putting an undue burden on the neighbor. Have to do this long written complaint, citing to the ordinance, to the county attorney. I mean, these folks should be able to just pick up the phone and call the zoning office and say, hey, this turbine is really loud. It's being really disruptive. Can you take a look at it? So I think that can really be streamlined. The revisions are also inadequate, as a lot of people have talked to today and written about, to address the public concerns. If you'll recall, back in October, the public overwhelmingly rejected Red Rock's turbine application. There's over 1,400 or approximately 1,400 members of the public signed a petition in opposition to it. The zoning office has a copy of that petition. If you haven't looked at it, I would encourage you to take a look at it, because I guarantee you will see names of your constituents from all over the spectrum who are opposed to these turbines. And it was pointed out today that Red Rock has 174, I believe it was stated, families that had entered into leases. And, on its face, it might sound like a lot of number. But when you take a step back and you see, we've got at least 1,400 people that are opposed, 174 really doesn't sound like so many when we're looking at how the broader public sees this, who will be affected by these turbines. Another new provision that's before you today is that any of these requirements can be waived if it would result in an extraordinary hardship to the developer. These billion-dollar corporations wanting to build industrial turbines on your land in order to get government tax benefits, they're just not facing an extraordinary hardship. For your average family that wants to enjoy their time outside, grandmother who wants to tend to her garden without the annoyance of shadow flicker in the evenings or the constant sound of turbines. I mean, who's really facing the hardship here? The next point, the final kind of topic, is that not all of you should be voting today. If you have a financial interest, regardless of how much, if you have any financial interest in turbines being built in Dickinson County, that's a conflict of interest. You can't now vote on amending the turbine ordinance that would pave the way for your financial benefit. I know there was a whole meeting about this, and so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But with all due respect, I think if you have a financial interest and you vote on this, that's a violation of your county's conflict of interest policy. Doesn't matter what the Iowa code says, you still need to follow your own county's policies. And if you are the individual with the conflict, you don't get to be involved in the decision of what action to take. Now, that's not my opinion. That's what paragraph 4 of your conflict of interest policy states. The county just doesn't get to pick and choose what policies to follow or not. The conflict of interest policy also states that the person with the conflict may be asked to recuse himself from sensitive discussions so as not to unduly influence the discussion of the conflict. So not voting, but not trying to influence your fellow board members. And I'm really concerned about that as well. So in conclusion, you can't make any changes to section 4 of Article 21 today. We didn't have notice. Procedurally, you cannot vote on that. Also, if you have a financial interest in turbines, you cannot vote. For those without the financial interest, the main changes that the Dickinson County Concerned Citizens are asking you to consider are to increase the minimum setback to the distance 4 times the total turbine height from a non-participating owner's property line. All setbacks, we really need to get some measurements in there from the property line, is to not restrict the use of their property. Now, as it was noted, in one of the drafts of the proposed revisions, there was a setback from the property line, 1.1 times the height of the turbine. but that was removed. And who requested to remove that? Of course, Red Rock, the turbine companies asked for that to be removed. But the public thinks it's really important to keep that in there. Establish a noise level of a maximum 35 dBA at night and 40 during the day. Prohibit shadow flicker on any non-participating landowner's property for any amount of time. The turbine company made sure to request an average of 30 minutes today. I mean, before you vote to allow that, I really think that you need to go out to a farm and sit there and experience shadow flicker for 30 minutes before you impose that on non-participating landowners. Turbines should not be allowed within 1 mile of any DNR land or waters, or within 3 miles of any city limits. And finally, you cannot exempt any of these conditional uses from the general standards as set forth in section 4. I think that's really important. This doesn't encompass all of DC3's concerns and proposed changes, but I know that others have spoken here today, so I won't repeat those. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
After Norland, we have Roger Doyle, Bill Maws, and Mike Fergan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It looks like you folks have been working very hard in all these issues, and I appreciate that. My name is Norland Stowell. I'm from Northwood, Iowa, formerly Emmitsburg. I have 2 windmills on one of my farms in Palo Alto County, just south of Ruthven. Diverse wind 10 unit established there. Never had a problem. As a farmer, it's with our increased costs of inputs, no guarantee what our income is going to be, and all the other problems and risks you have, that extra income from a wind tower can really help you. My second point is, I realize that all counties, municipalities, school districts, and everyone need more money. Things cost more. Improvements, repairs. A wind tower project, as you know, is going to provide this county with a good deal of money to offset some of those increased costs that you're going to have in the future. If it doesn't receive the money from the wind towers, I guess taxpayers like myself and others will have to pay more to contribute the work that needs to be done in each of our counties, our schools, and our communities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Roger Doyle, 3180 270th Street, lifelong Dickinson County resident. I've lived at my property, owned my property for the past 24 years. I've known some of you for 30, 40 years. The proposed amendments from planning and zoning, they have been written, they just as well been written by Invenergy. It fits their project, not today's needs. There's nothing that is protecting my property rights or from losing property value. Invenergy claims there will be a 0% hit to property value. There's accredited studies and professionals out there that show up to a 55% hit to property value several miles away. There's an article by Iowa State Ag Law and Taxation that says there's up to a 40% hit. I've personally spoken with the law professor that wrote that article, and he told me I will lose property value. Common sense wise, if you have less buyers, which there's 1,500 people, 1,400 people that signed a petition, they don't want to be there. They don't want to live by a turbine. So if you have less buyers, you have less competition, and you're going to have lower property values. There's a whole location thing. If you buy a turbine versus not buy one, property value. Palo Alto has an up-to-date, I would say, ordinance regarding this stuff. It was updated in 2022. They require an ADLS on all turbines, total height of 600 feet max, which we have. As we've known, turbines have grown in the past couple of years or 15 years. They require 1/2 mile from cemeteries. They require 1/2 mile from permanent residential dwellings, and they require 1.2 times height from property lines without a waiver. That's an up-to-date ordinance with amendments that I feel like it would be a good example. Palo Alto is 2.25 miles from my door. I would ask that you add a property value protection agreement for non-participating landowners. There's an example of that I just handed out. There are several states that do include that. Illinois, Maine, Michigan, New Hampshire, New York. I've heard arguments, how could we do that? We can't, how would you propose that? Well, if other states can do it, are we not smart enough here in Dickinson County and in Iowa to do the same thing? We trust our assessors, appraisers, and our other real estate professionals to set those private property values today. I would also note that there's 8,279 households in the county. And I believe the numbers I heard were 174. I had 244 families had signed up for Red Rock. That's only 2.9% of the county that has signed up for this. I would urge you to think about that. Dickinson County should make ordinance that.
Corey, your
Thank you.
time's up. Thank you for your comments.
I'm Bill Moss. I am the current mayor of Orleans. I really didn't sign up to give a presentation or anything. I just said that if there was some clarification that was needed, that I would say something, and I think somebody signed up for me. But we did discuss at length the setback from city limits. It didn't seem to be addressed in the proposed ordinance. And Orleans, of course, is not known for its industrial development. We're pretty much just a residential area. But if we decide to expand, which we have had several different things in the last 5 years, we would be limited if it's limited to just 1,600 feet outside of city limits. So, I guess I would encourage you to consider going further. We had in our discussion, we talked about, well, can we impose on someone else that has property outside of our city? And there were some reservations about that. But I guess it comes down to fight or flight and preservation of being able to develop within the city. But that's where the city starts. One thing that I guess as an individual, I'll work this in because I still got a couple seconds left. I've heard some facts and figures that I really question. My background, in case you don't know, I was a public school teacher for 40 years. During that time, I taught math and physics, and my degree does cover math and physics. And some of the statements that have been made, I question whether they're qualified statements or not. But I'll just leave it at that. And so if any of you, I'll make the board an offer to the Board of Supervisors. If you have questions, I will speak to you as an individual, but I don't want to take a stand on my own. I just want to be informational only. But thank you for your time and good luck making this decision. I'm glad you have to make it and I don't. So
Thank you, Bill.
All right, after Mike, we have Dave Kolash, Abigail Miles, and Alex Miles.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Ferguson, Spirit Lake, Iowa. And I've highlighted to each of you to look at some amendments that should be considered. The first, under D1, add the language, the owner operator will be responsible for knowledge compliance of all local, state, and federal laws regarding the wind energy business. Setbacks, I recommend 4 times on dwelling, 2,000 feet on non-dwelling, 2,000 feet on property lines. Public right-of-ways, all railroads, roads, 2,000 feet. Overhead utilities, communication equipment, electrical and other utilities, 2,000 feet. state and federal public lands 1 mile, density no more than 150 new and existing in our county. The discontinuation or decommissioning, this needs to be addressed. You guys have said, which is great, that we require performance bonds for drainage ditches of about $1 million. So I think we should have some financial security for all of us and those landowners and adjacent landowners, that the financial assurance will be secured in the form of a performance bond, a surety bond, a certified check in the amount of 10% of the total project cost. That will be then put together, left there with the county recorder for the next 40 years to make sure the bill is paid and it's taken care of. With regard to mitigation of damages, I think there should be some look at signal electronic interference to include TV, microwave, navigational, radio reception, and other electronic devices. With regards to sound and shadow flickering, should be in compliance with local, state, and federal laws that are present, and which they're in the wind energy business, they need to be responsible for. And the last one I submitted was pollution to include air, land, water, noise, vibration, and any other pollution associated with the turbine permit, that the owner operator could be liable for civil and criminal liability related to the health, safety, welfare of people and animals. If this is a non-issue, that everything is fine, then there is no worry with this piece of paper. The duty of the sheriff, the duty of you guys, is to serve and protect the community. I am pleading for you to serve and protect the community with decent standards, because you'll be gone, I'll be gone, but 35 years from now, we want to make sure we take care of the other ones left behind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Dave Coolash, longtime resident of Spirit Lake, and feel the tension in this room. It's unbelievable. You know, I've been here a long time and been a lot of stuff in the community throughout the years. And I always thought to be proactive, not reactive. If there's something you're doing, you think about it first, then you react, and then do it. And if you're doing the second thing, you're doing something wrong the first time. So if you're reactive, proactive, you're doing it right. You know, you want to do it right the first time. I was out driving around yesterday, and I heard a lot of stuff about Palo Alto County. And I was out east of Grettinger and looked out towards Fenton, and out that way, towards Depew. My goodness, you got to see all the towers out there. Unbelievable. I know they have their setbacks and got them all where they're supposed to be, but it's unbelievable. You know, what ground that takes up for farming. And I know Red Rocks has been here for quite a while, and they're been doing a lot of things, and they're like a steamroller when they come to town. They want to do everything and want to do it right, and convincing you and everybody they want to do it the right way. But how do you set a steamroller off? Take the keys out of the ignition. Stop it. You have the choice of doing that. And I know there's two phases to this. This is the first one. The second one is would concern me and my family farm, or my wife's family farm, in section 29 and 32 of a Superior Township. And so, I mean, I'm just hoping that we do the right thing for the first time and make sure that we control what's going on here. And I know a lot of landowners I looked through this book this morning, and somebody's from Wisconsin. He don't live here. We live here, and there's renters that live here or buy acreages that live here. And they want to live there, not have these wind flickers. And I could go a long way about the computer, as far as I used to work with the computer and use an air card, and the computer would drop out all the time over by Worthington. Because you've ever been to Worthington, there's a bunch over there, But Mountain Lake's another one. We got a bunch up there. But anyway, the landowners, the property owners of the acreages have a right to say what's going on here. And I think that's what a lot of them are doing here. And hopefully the board do the right thing. And Megan, I tell you, all the work she's done in red, it's unreal. She needs a lot of praise for that. And I thank the board for hearing me.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I was so excited to speak. Abigail Miles, Spirit Lake, Iowa. I would like to express my opposition to the proposed wind ordinance. The energy company has stated that a 1,600-foot setback is the average setback for wind turbines. Here are the facts as to why an average should not be used to determine our ordinance. A search of Iowa's wind turbines shows only 70 of Iowa's 6,300 wind turbines are as tall as what are proposed to go in Dickinson County. Most of Iowa's turbines are much shorter, just as the 147 turbines on the west side of our county are over 200 feet shorter than the 591-foot turbines that Invenergy hopes to install on the east side. This means our county should be using the very highest number, not an average number, to determine a wise and responsible setback. Literally, 99% of the turbines in Iowa are significantly shorter than the 590-foot ones. Using an average setback number does not make sense. The numbers don't lie. These turbines aren't just taller, they are more massive in every way, making it more catastrophic if something were to malfunction. I am in favor of a minimum setback of 4 times the height of the turbine from the property lines. I also want to see the same setback for our conservation areas. I'd also like greater consideration to be given to having a setback of 3 miles from all town limits to allow future town expansion, since the turbine contracts will last into the next generation. I would like to renew my request for a moratorium on all wind projects to allow time for a more thoughtful ordinance to be created, and one that the majority of residents can put their stamp of approval on. I know none of you sitting on the board will be here to see the long-term effects of these decisions, but I will still be here and I care deeply. I hope that matters to you. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Okay, after Alex, we have Bob Hinshaw, Shane Bush, and Chris Van Cleek.
About 3/4 miles south of Allendorf, Iowa, there was a turbine failure a few days ago. The 225-foot tall turbine launched fragments of its blade up to 955 feet away. This is 4.24 times the turbine's height. The nearest house is 911 feet away from that turbine. If the wind had been in a little different direction, parts of the turbine blade would have launched into the neighbor's property and house. Turbine blade parts can be launched in any direction depending on the wind. So if we draw a 955-foot circle around that turbine, that gives us a visualization of the danger zone around it. Note that the wind speed during the night the Allendorf turbine blew apart was up to 33 miles an hour. Compare this to last July when we had sustained wind speeds of 45 miles an hour and gusts of 72 miles an hour. These are over double the wind speeds of the incident a few days ago and can contribute to a larger danger zone. Higher potential winds, taller turbines, longer blades, faster tip speeds, along with a margin of error for safety means that even a 4.2 times setback is not enough. A setback of 5 times is a bare minimum. This setback needs to be from the property line. A razor-sharp blade fragment landing at the corner of someone's house is too close for comfort. It would not be good if it hit someone in their yard. Now let's look at what a minimum danger zone of 4.24 times the turbine height would look like for the proposed turbines in Dickinson County. If you look at the page with the map there, the mapping software shows that it would put in danger 15 miles of paved road just in the Red Rock area and a total of 28 miles if you include the Superior Wind and Three Waters Wind projects. This is only the paved roads. In the proposed Red Rock area, 19.7 square miles of non-leased land is within the danger zones, non-participating land. This is approximately 650 parcels of non-participating land, of which 209 are completely in the danger zone, a complete take of their rights for those properties. The risk inside the danger zones are direct injury or death to people or animals from ice or blade throw, farmland soil contamination from fiberglass, potentially ruined crops from fiberglass or fire, fiberglass in streams and water sources. I've heard a lot about not wanting to take away the opportunity to use wind turbines and basing our ordinance on that. That is not the right way to think about things. We shouldn't start with making sure turbines can come here and accepting the level of danger they bring to our neighbors. We should start with protecting our neighbors from danger and our farmland from contamination and accept whether or not that means we can bring turbines here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Shane Bush, Mr. Chairman, rest of the supervisors. I come here without a script, so I have to think before I speak. I'd like to let you know our family's lived in the county over 100 years. We've got some roots here. I personally am for wind turbine development in the county. I've heard a lot of verbiage expressed here today, espoused without any facts presented. I don't know what the percentage of failed towers is. I'm going to guess that the number of failed towers that throw a blade is less than the number of aircraft that fall out of the sky. And each of us is susceptible to an airplane crashing into our own house, which to me is not any bigger danger or risk than a turbine blade flying through the air. Also, there's been some discussion or verbiage put out today about flicker. And as far as I know, if you have any trees on your property that have leaves, you're exposed to flicker through your windows of your house, or even if you're outside, if the sun's shining. So you have to live with that or cut down all the trees. The point on the airplanes, are you going to put a determination on how many airplanes can fly through your airspace? Probably not. I don't degrade any amount of what you're taking on your shoulders to make decisions. My understanding is that you've already revised the ordinance one time and it's been presented here. I don't know how far the opposition is willing to go until they have everything bundled up into what they present. But as a landowner, I feel it's my right to erect and construct or have constructed on our property what we deem we want. So if something else were to happen, like my pleasure of being able to see the lakes from any point around the lakes, it's restricted at this point. So maybe the houses on the lakes or anything close to the lakes should go by the same setback rules that have been expressed here today. So if you have a house that's 35 feet tall, you have to be 4 times that away from your own property lines. I mean, what's fair for one should be fair for the other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bob Henshaw. A lot of excellent points made today here. So I might be repeating some of them. I'll try to be quick. Today's turbines are huge. What are they going to be like in a few more years? because when the ones today that they put up wear out, or if they can make them bigger and cheaper for more power, they'll do it. So they're going to be huge. Number two item is that the value of the land, some of these acreages will devalue as much as 25%, maybe more, because of the wind turbines. I hope we don't sacrifice the quality of life for not only our people in this county, but also the wildlife, for just the sake of improving the financial well-being of a few. One last thing I'd say is that you hear talk about a setback of 1,600 feet. I think a good compromise, in my humble opinion, would be maybe 16 miles. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, after Chris, we have Barb Clayton, Rich Bonniewagon, and Rebecca Kern.
Chris Van Cleek from Milford. I know y'all know my face. I've learned more about local government than I ever wanted to know. We started out in this process wanting to have an effect and to protect our neighbors and to respect the rights of those that chose to participate and sign a lease and those that didn't. And I'm not going to spew a lot of data because I'm tired of the data, quite honestly. I've looked at it for so many months now that, it is there. If you want to look, it's there. We had examples of all the counties and those that had been revised within the last 3 years and how they increased their setbacks due to the increased height of these turbines. Woodbury County, their engineer recommended 2,500-foot setback after doing research on ice and blade throw. And that's available online and in their minutes. A neighbor and I, when we met with Al Bloom, he said this project, he was very proud of it, and I'm glad that he can be proud of it. But one of the statements he made was that these are state-of-the-art and 45 decibels. They're not going to irritate anybody, 45 decibels. And here we are arguing about 45 to 50 decibels. And we have data to show that it should be less than that. And it's only at nighttime. Remember, it isn't all day long. It's only at nighttime to allow people to sleep. Sleep is important. We all know that. We're not teenagers anymore. Most of us aren't. We know what it's like to be sleep deprived. So that's important. I do appreciate many additions to this. The resolution protocol is excellent. I do question the 30-day time frame. That seems awful long if it's unresolved for someone to have a clanking, whirling, whatever that might be. And so maybe look at that. We talk about Invenergy, but there are other projects out there, Three Waters Winds, and they will all be evaluated by this ordinance when it's revised, or the old one. The participating leaseholders, they sign a lease that waive their rights for multiple things: sound, electrical, shadow, any nuisance. Invenergy is now contacting non-participating landowners that are within one half a mile. They are contacting them and they're asking them to sign a good neighbor agreement and to waive their rights for those issues. That would be a short-term, minute financial gain for a long-term consequence, 60 years. This ordinance should protect all of those that we haven't accepted any money. We haven't been paid for shadow flicker or any of those things. And so I ask that you would decide to return this ordinance to the P&Z committee for further revision instead of protecting these projects. Please don't protect the projects over protect the people. And I know that's a hard balance to find. I can appreciate that. But I do believe with those particularly 3 items that will not protect our local residents that will live near these turbines if they get through. And I thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Can you hold the clock just a second, Jordan, while I ask a clarification question real quick? So on the shadow flicker, it says centrics. Does that mean to the center of the dwelling? Centroid, yeah.
Yes. So that'd be the middle of the
That's the middle of the house, right? It's not the edge of the wall. Oh, from the centroid of the human occupied residence.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not where the setback goes from the edge of the dwelling. The shadow flicker goes from the center of the house.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, we can go. Okay. So, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. So you're measuring the setback from the edge of the house and the shadow flicker from the center. So if that house is 30 feet long, you know, that's an extra 30 feet wide. That's an extra 15 foot of shadow flicker. So the shadow flicker should really go to the edge of the house as opposed to the center of the house. So, one of my questions is when is enough enough? We don't have anything in here that says the maximum number Dickinson County will tolerate in turbines. You know, that we have a maximum height of 600 feet, where I'm not quite sure where that number came from, but we don't have a maximum number. So when would enough be enough? I mean, do we just keep going until every available space in the county is taken? Or do we say, you know, this is how many we're going to tolerate in Dickinson County? There has been other counties in the state that have put in maximum number. There's been other counties in the nation that have put in maximum numbers. So when is enough enough? Several times here today, both speaking on the wind and the CO2 pipeline, we've been working on this for years. We've been working on this for years. You can't make any changes. Well, most of the people in this room did not know they have been working on this for years. And so to me, it's not a valid argument. I've proposed, and I gave this to the P&Z board, a permit to solicit leases so that we know what's going on. We need to have some availability or some idea of what's happening. So the public knows what's happening and we can address issues before they go, well, we've put too much money in it. You have to approve our project. And one thing to remember, this project is not being written for Red Rocks or Invenergy, this ordinance, it's being written for Dickinson County. So thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Von Ewagen, 2568 260th Street, Milford. 45 decibels. When you look it up, it's easy research. You can look it up. What does 45 decibels sound like? It's a normal conversation. Normal conversation right outside your house, right outside your window, day, night. Normal conversation, tractors, most everything that can be compared to that comes to an end, stops. It doesn't go woof, 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 and never stop. It also doesn't take into consideration a 375-foot deck on the side of a house where you used to enjoy. That's being taken away in that situation because the sound is part of the problem. Secondly, the 1,600-foot setback. Invenergy was already at that. If that's a negotiation, they got exactly what they wanted. They didn't go back any farther. 1,200 is what you had, 1,600 feet is what they were willing to do. Quarter mile, half a mile is adequate. A half a mile would be adequate to those of us who live where they're going, I submit to you that when we were kids, our parents gave us an option of a book. Which book do you want to read before you go to bed? Tricky little thing, isn't it? You're going to bed. That's the point from the parent's standpoint. From the kid's standpoint, they're getting to pick a book. They've been tricked. They don't know it, but they've been tricked. In this case, 1,600 feet. You like your setback at 1,600 feet or 1,600 feet? And this ordinance it has to be sent back. It's more like it was given, like Invenergy or the energy companies made this proposal. That's more like what it is. It's too heavily slanted in that direction. You have to vote to deny it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rebecca Kern.
That's all you have. Thank you all for participating. Board, your turn.
We have to close the public meeting if you want. If we're done with public comment.
Oh.
Yeah,
So you want the public comment
no,
ended?
yeah, we're done with the public meeting, so the public comments ended.
Okay, I have been informed the public meeting is now adjourned. However, discussion amongst the board shall continue. So board, continue discussing.
It was brought up earlier that we cannot vote on some of this today, and I guess I'm asking for legal advice from Steve and Megan.
Just like we did with the wind turbine.
What are we able to do?
Just like we.
Well, if you've been informed, you've been misinformed. So these, I went back through my emails. Email can be a beautiful thing. On December 15th, there was an email sent to P&Z that included the draft ordinance with section 4 included in there. It was then sent to IT on December 22nd and then emailed once again to the Board of Supervisors and Planning and Zoning on December 27th. The Planning and Zoning Commission met on January 15th and voted 5-1 to send the ordinance to you all. It was then updated on email to the Board of Supervisors and the IT department on January 23rd. It was published in the paper on January 25th. All documented in my emails.
So what you're saying?
So the ordinance that you have in front of you has been properly noticed.
Well, I guess one of my comments is I would like to see it written that if one of these towers falls down, it falls down on the property owner's property. That we don't have overhang. It's all their problem.
So would that be something we could address? And I'm going through here. Under setbacks, number 5.
I believe
I'm
so.
understanding what you're asking.
Right.
Us to look at. Property lines at no time shall any part of the wind turbine or meteorological tower overhang an adjoining property without securing appropriate easements from adjoining property owners. Would it be, and I know no amount of feet I say is gonna be enough, but if we would put so many feet from the tip of that turbine to the property line, would that
Well, as
work
I
or no?
understand it, if you put an accessory building on there, it has to meet a setback requirement. Is that correct?
Yes.
And, you know, I don't know why the tip of the turbine blade would be any different than an accessory building. It would have to meet that requirement.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not used to being not heard.
Yeah, you're on. Okay.
Yeah, it's on. My question was that if you build an accessory building on your property, it has to be a certain distance from the property line. And maybe we should consider that the tip of the turbine blade has to be that far,
Mhm.
you know, of a setback from the property line.
That's if it were laying down,
If-
I assume.
Well, you know, you have to take from the radius of the hub and how far that goes out, you know, perpendicular, you know, and then you'd have to have a setback from that property line.
Well, you'd have to add the height of the tower itself, plus your tip of your blade.
Yeah,
And so if it goes over,
right.
this blade's on your property. Right?
Well, you know, with an accessory building, you don't say, well, it's gotta be back so far in case we have a derecho come up and it blows it on the neighbor's property. You know, there's a construction setback.
But the concern I'm hearing is if something malfunctions and it goes over, I would like that to be on the owner's property.
Well, okay, if it's 600 feet from the base to the tip when it's standing up,
Okay,
it fell over, it would take 600 feet. That would be a 50-foot setback if that's what was proposed. So it'd be 650 feet from the property line to the center of the base.
okay, that's fine. Yeah,
Just an observation.
Right.
Jeff, what are your thoughts?
One concern is on the 45 decibels, but that's. On the 45 decibels of.
Okay, one of the citizens sent us a page with different decibel levels.
Well, there was concern at 45 if that would omit. A lot
It
of.
was too much or too little?
Too little.
Is it-
We talked about 50 as opposed, I realize it's only 5 decibels, but.
Right. Well, I think Megan has something to say about that.
Okay.
How did you come up with 45 decibels?
In the last meeting, there was a proposal for 45, and then there was somebody that wanted 50, and so my compromise in P and Z was 45 at night. I will say that we've received information from, I have a chart, you know, there are some that are less than 50 dBA at 50 dBA. Actually, a couple that were recently updated that are at 60 dBA. And then I've got one at less than 30 and one at no more than greater than 45. So, looking at other counties, it's kind of all over the gamut.
There is a challenge with decibels, obviously, and that
Correct.
starts one thing, but you don't want to come over to my house when I have my grandkids because we have to have a sound machine to put them to bed and it's well over 50. But that's the only way they'll go to sleep. So I mean, this is the challenging thing that we face.
Yeah, many people run a fan, a
That's
floor
loud.
fan at night, and that's
Louder
more
than
than
that.
50 decibels.
So I'm not opposed to the standard, but if 45 is where it would fall, I can live with that as well.
Which is why we went 45 at night. It was I felt like trying to do the middle of the road. If during the day it's at 50 or whatever the sound level may be, but, and I don't know from an industry how challenging that is, but that's how it came out of P&Z because we were at a stalemate.
The other thing that I wondered about is the amount of money that would be held in reserve to decommission. How do you start? At what level do you start? If in my reading, it's $900,000 to deconstruct one wind turbine. So if you've got 72 of them, that's over $80 million. would you, now, I don't expect them all to need to be decommissioned at the same time. So how do you work that?
Well, we have a review of the financial assurance being proposed to be reviewed every 36 months.
Which I really like that part of it,
Okay.
but the amount, but where do you start? What do you,
Just says the WIX and the security is equal to or greater than the net amount set forth in the decommissioning plan provided for by this article. So basically, in the decommissioning plan being brought forth by a wind company, they would outline their net amount of the project and then reviewed it every 36 months.
okay, I mean,
That's just how it's worded currently.
no, that's fine. I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
no, absolutely.
How that would work. All right, if there, you have something, Kim?
Well, I'm just going back to this property lines setback with the blade. Would it be in our best interest for particularly the non-participating folks if we went, and I'll throw a number at 50 feet from the property line to the tip of the wind blade? In addition, obviously, of the 1,600 feet from the home. So is that kind of what you were talking about before?
No, I was talking about if you build a wind turbine 650 feet from a property line,
Yep.
you know,
But that's not what's being proposed is 600,
I think,
is 1,600 feet. I see.
I think Steve was going back to the 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1.1.
Or 105.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to do. Yeah. And this back and forth that we don't.
Okay.
It's just a thought. Just a thought.
Maybe we need to go back with P and Z and we have a joint meeting with them.
be okay with me.
Well, I think it would eliminate this back and forth because P and Z has some ideas. Clearly, Board of Supervisors have some ideas. Public has some ideas.
Right.
This way, if you guys
Well,
are all together, we can.
that's all this is, Steve. This is looking at it, seeing
Oh,
what our board wants.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
I mean, I had
With you.
no perceptions that we would settle this today.
No, no, no.
These are,
No.
but these are things that I want
That need to be covered,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
And I think it's important, you know, and 600 feet's a big turbine, I get that. But in 2017, 50 turbines were put up in western Dickinson County that were just under 500 feet. So it's, I mean, it's, again, it's bigger and it is obviously a change, but we've had these now for 7 years.
Yeah. I really, you know, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a structural guy or anything, but I really doubt that whether, you know, when they design the base to set these turbines on, they design them for a 600 foot. I doubt if they design them for a 1,000-foot turbine because it takes so much more. So I think there's probably a limitation on the growth on these particular sites of the size turbines. I don't think they could probably safely put any bigger ones on foundation wise. So, you know, I might be wrong. I'm not, like I said, I'm not an engineer, but I would guess that they're engineered specifically for those sizes. You know, it's, you know, the original ones they put in down at Peterson area, you know, those are pretty small and I don't think they could put a very big tower on top of those.
They're removing them.
Yeah.
They're removing
Yeah.
them and putting them.
Yeah, so.
What do you want to do?
Oh, I
Oh,
know.
before we go on, Friday, Mr. Fairchild informed me that he would recuse himself from any vote on this. Do you have anything to say?
Well,
Thank you for that. I would ask Steve if at some point, if I'm allowed with all these people watching me and threats of lawsuits, am I allowed to ask any questions at any time about any of this? Because I do have one document that was submitted. I would like to ask a question about. If it doesn't violate any rules.
Can I see what you want to ask?
It is important to clarify that every person on this list loses a turbine at that decibel rating or not. That's what they're telling me. I'd also like to know how many turbines you lose such a setbacks.
I think if we go to this joint meeting.
How do I verify that to be, am I understanding that correctly? 'Cause I don't know if that's what they're going to mean.
You can probably verify that through Joe here between now and Tuesday.
Okay, that's all I need to do.
Yeah, so I would hold it.
Yeah, joint meeting.
What was the verdict?
We'll find out later.
Just move forward if we could, Chairman.
Okay,
I would suggest we have a joint meeting with the P and Z and we get this to come to a conclusion of where we're headed.
is that a motion?
Sure. I'll make that a motion.
Okay, Kim has moved.
Have a joint meeting with P and Z.
I'll second.
Jeff has seconded. Further discussion. I think it's a fine idea. There is no more discussion. Kim?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
And Bill is aye. Should he be on the record as recusing
Yes.
Yes.
it for the minutes?
He's
Abstain.
abstained.
Abstain.
That he abstained from a vote to meet with the P and Z.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so
Excellent.
Mr. Chair, the next regularly scheduled P and Z meeting, because everybody's here, would be the 20th at 1 o'clock. Usually we have them on Monday, but Monday is President's Day. Prior to this meeting, we had told the P and Z board that there would not be a meeting for February. So we're doing, in my discussion with Megan, we're doing our best as soon as we are done here to notify P and Z to make sure we have a quorum for P and Z for Tuesday at 1 o'clock. If we can't get a quorum, we'll have to do a special meeting. We'll endeavor to move as fast as we can.
And that does not require additional notifications in any newspapers, just our traditional agenda that would be posted 24 hours prior to the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
So then, should we add to the motion that meet on the 20th of February, 1 o'clock?
Sure.
I would be in favor of that addition.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, got that, Jordan? Excellent. Finally, we are down to general discussion, board and committee reports. Want to start us off, Kim?
Yeah, other than a lot of research on what we're discussing, I don't have anything else to report.
Okay.
No.
Steve?
Yeah, I had a real easy week. All I did was study ordinances. So
I got a feeling we're all gonna say that. Tim? what'd
Not
you
me.
do?
In addition to studying ordinances, I traveled to Des Moines, Iowa for the state
well, I
supervisor.
did do that.
Yeah, I guess you did too.
Yeah, I did too.
Well, I did do that.
I went to meet with the governor with a small group of supervisors. I guess I was their token Democrat. Ironically, the governor only agreed with one member of the committee, and that was me, regarding pipelines. I did, on the little more sour note, I did get a pretty clear indication that the move towards local control being diminished will continue. And in fact, it's interesting because I am certain that the discussion we're having now about wind will most likely be removed from local control anyway. So here we are, taking 20 years off our life. And but anyway, it was really good. Had a good time. Amazing the different takes on House File 718. That was a hot topic. And I don't want to, we've been here long enough. I could go on a long time, but let's just quit.
What was the general tone on 718?
They freaking hate it.
Yeah,
Just hate it.
everybody,
It's an
everybody.
attempt to save the taxpayer money that will cost them money. Again, it just, they're quite envious of Dickinson County's position because we have levers that we can move to weather this storm pretty easily. Not everybody's in that position.
Hey, Jeff.
All right, well, I'm lazier than Tim. Instead of going to Des Moines, I brought our state representative here on Friday and interviewed him, and I've got our state senator this Friday, so it keeps me from going out of town more, which worked out kind of nice.
And the other
Yeah.
towns are grateful.
Attended the Grape Escape, great fundraiser for scholarships for Lakes Regional on Friday night. And I believe we got Hunger Coalition at 3 this afternoon. He said with no reply. I'm just gonna say that we do.
I think he's asking you, Jim.
Hunger
Hunger
Coalition at
Coalition.
3. Confirmed. That's it.
That's it. I actually had no official meetings this week, and like you, I did a lot of reading. So, is there anything out there for the good of the cause? If not, I'd take a motion to adjourn. Or we can stay here another.
Or I'll
couple
make that
hours.
motion. Glad.
Oh, okay. Jeff has moved. Kim has seconded. Please, no discussion. Okay. Jeff,
Aye.